What's up, everybody? How's it going? Welcome to Cafe de Blanc podcast. This is Let's Talk Megaten, and today's episode, Larrue. Did you know Tensei? So I really do appreciate you being kind of like the pilot episode, the pilot person to start this with. I've been wanting to do this for a minute now, but I was like, I don't know what I want to do with this, but I finally figured it out, and I was like, I need to reach out to some people and start working it out. So I did a poll. Larrue won first by a landslide, like 40% out of the other people that I had. So definitely, I know some people want to hear about Larrue. So thank you so much for coming by.
Yeah, hi, hello. I'm drinking coffee right now because
I got you right on the wrong side, right? Yeah, like I took a pause and I'm like, I'm gonna have a sip myself. I have some tea over here, but yeah, I do appreciate you here. It's earlier over there. It's almost 11 o'clock over here, but I'm happy to talk to you as much as we need to over here. So yeah, so tell the viewers or the listeners what is your channel about it. What's the elevator pitch as far as what you do in the Megaten community?
yeah. So my channel is basically just me doing research and making these like history videos about different aspects of Atlas, whether it's their print club or their trading card game or some other weird thing that I find interesting. And then yeah, I think that currently I'm gearing more towards making like documentary style videos, but I'm in that transitional period still. So right now, working on a beefy, chunky video that's gonna be like my biggest video on the channel.
Yeah. That's nice. That's nice. But besides that, you also stream. Is that right?
Yeah. I stream on Twitch. I used to stream on my channel, but then I moved to Twitch just because it was I don't know, it's easier for me.
No,
but I stream on
totally
Twitch.
agree.
No, I don't have a schedule though. It's basically whenever I feel like streaming, and basically because I don't really stream gameplay, I usually just talk or read and react to different things. It could be like a 20-minute stream, or it could be like 4-hour stream. It just depends.
It just depends on the mood. Yeah. No, I totally feel you there. So you do YouTube, you do Twitch, obviously. What else do you do? You're very active on Twitter, and I know you also done stuff with Reddit and Facebook, right?
Yeah, I think that's like where I got started, was on Facebook. I was just in Spencer's Facebook group for Shimigami Tensei, and then I made my own Facebook page for trivia, which I basically abandoned now. I haven't posted there in I don't know, like months. And then I moved on to Reddit, and now I'm mostly on just Twitter, but I also do TikTok sometimes. I'll just do the trivia post that I used to do on Facebook. I do on TikTok now because it's just easy to just bang it out that way.
Nice. I actually didn't know you did TikTok. I knew you post some of the shorts onto YouTube. I didn't know you were actually doing TikTok, but that's interesting. That's an interesting take on what you were doing before. I actually known you for a long time. I didn't know you personally, but I knew of you for really for quite a bit of time because I always seen those "Did you know Tensei" little meme posts that you used to post on Facebook.
Yeah.
So I used to read them and like share them on Facebook all the time. So like I known of you for a minute. So sometimes when I tell people about like about you, or like we talking and you come up with a conversation, I'm like, yeah, did you know Tensei? Did you know of that? Or like, and I tell them about the memes and everything. Oh, is that him? I'm like, yeah, that's him. Like, although a lot of people know you for us Larrue, I think a lot of people don't. I also know you as Did you know Tensei, who I think like to me like you introduced me as so many different like little bits, like you were saying, that all of the stuff that you do now on TikTok. So that's how I got to know about you and everything. So always fun to watch that kind of stuff. I never been able to produce that kind of content, but I appreciate seeing that kind of stuff because it's pretty cool. I like knowing those bits and pieces of trivia and that kind of stuff.
Yeah, funny story. Johnny Awesome is pretty much why I started going by Larrue, because I remember when I used to post them quite often. Like that's pretty much all I did was just the trivia posts. And then I think Johnny Awesome like DM'd me and like this is at a time where I didn't really know YouTube at all, and he was just like, "Oh, can I read some of your like trivia posts and I'll like credit you?" And I was like, "No." And then I was like, "Wait, I can do videos." So then I tried. I think the first couple of videos I ever did on my channel were just me trying it out to see like if I would like doing YouTube videos, and it was basically because I just didn't want to let Johnny Awesome read my posts.
That's interesting. Did you ever let him do that, or he just never ask you again?
No, it like my apology, because I didn't like at the time I just thought he was just some like guy who was trying to like, I don't know, get clout or something. And I was like, no, come on, like do your own research. It's not hard. But then like my apology to him was like doing a collab where he got to do a part of the history for Sorajima. So he read in my Sorajima video, he read like some of the history for me, and that was like kind of like our that's kind of like the time I started talking to him a lot more.
Right on. That's pretty funny, actually. Yeah. So good times. So how long have you been in the community, as far as like the if you were to put like a time frame of how long you've been kind of doing the Did You Know Tensei, the Facebook thing now? Like how long will that? How much would you say?
So that's like 6 years, I think. So like when I was doing just like the trivia post, or the trivia post, that was like 6 years ago, I think. And then or maybe a little longer. But I've been in the community since like 2003 or 4. I used to go on the Atlas forums a long time ago. There's a fan forum called DDSnet, which I used to like surf, but before I did the trivia post, I never really I was never like a big person. I would just lurk and see whatever.
Yeah, I used to go. I think to that one to look for people that were playing the Shin Megami Tensei Imagine.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, so I used to go there to look for people to play with, because I didn't know anybody that played SMT Imagine. So I was like, I really want to play with people, but I don't know anybody like near me that plays Imagine or anything. So I will always go to like the forums and look for people and everything. So yeah, like I didn't know you were also in those forums as well. So
yeah. Are you talking about the Aria forums for Arcave? Because I think those are the two companies that did Imagine. So I used to play Imagine, but I didn't actually play it. I would just go on to just talk to people.
Oh, really? Yeah. There was a time in my life when I was just obsessed with MMOs. Like, give me an MMO and I'll drop, like 300, 400 hours on it. I was really obsessed with a bunch of them. And, knowing that I liked Persona and SMT, I was like, I really want to play Imagine. I knew about it, but I was like, I really want to play with people. So I was trying so hard to find people to play with. So I don't know. I was really shy about it. So it was always hard for me to like approach people on like forums and stuff. I always found them really intimidating for some reason. I think because I just didn't know like how to like approach people about like, hey, random stranger, would you like to play with me? I don't know. It was just kind of a weird question.
I gotta ask you. So you said you were into MMOs. What MMOs were like your top when around the time Imagine was big?
Ragnarok Online. Do you ever play that one?
Ragnarok? I played it a little bit.
Yeah, I played Final Fantasy game to, what was it? 12? I think
11?
12. 11? Was that 11?
There
was the MMO, the one, is that 11? I don't remember. It's been a minute. Mavinogi was another one that I played.
Dude, Mavinogi was so good.
Yeah, the first time I bought a Shonen Jump magazine, and there was an advertisement for Mavinogi, and I was like, oh dude, this is like anime MMO. I really want to play this. So I started playing that, and I was obsessed with that. I used to go there all the time, play, and it's really funny, but I actually, my character was a long-haired male with like really long hair, so a lot of people thought I was a girl, and at first I was just like, oh, that's kind of dumb, but then at one time I was just like, yes, and then they were like, oh, are you new? And I was like, yeah, I've been like, I was pretty low level at the time, and they like gave me a shit ton of gear because they thought I was a girl, and now I literally I went back, switched my character to a female, and I will get free shit all the time from people just because I was a girl, and like my character was a girl, and like they were all like so nice about giving me gear and stuff. So like after that, I will just go to MMOs and pick girls. I always like try. I got the. I don't know why, but then during that time, I guess people didn't think that girls will pick like. It doesn't matter whether you're a guy or a girl. You can make whatever character you want. But for some reason, a lot of guys would just pick guy characters. So like seeing a girl character was kind of rare, I guess. So I don't know. It was always funny to me. What about you? What kind of MMOs did you play?
Dude, like a lot. I played like MMOs were like my big thing. Like the reason why I don't play any of them now is because I get pretty like invested in the gameplay loop of an MMO.
Yeah. This is the thing right now with Final Fantasy 14. I really want to play it, but I know if I do, I'm going to sink too many hours into it. I'm going to get fired from my job because I'm not going to be able to want to go to work or something. Yep. I have a bad feeling about it. Alright,
I also was super into Final Fantasy 11. 14 is a lot like 11. It's like a very updated version of 11, and so I really liked it. But it's too addictive, so I can't play it. But when I was growing up, I think I started with some of like the most dumb ones like RuneScape.
RuneScape, yeah.
Neopets, if that counts.
There was another one like Neopets with like almost like Lego characters. I don't remember what it was called. I also went there, and there was a Club Penguin Club. What is it?
Oh yeah, Club Penguin. I didn't play that one because it looked dumb, but I did play like the Disney one. I forgot what it was called, Cartoon Town or something.
Yeah.
That one was pretty good.
Yeah,
I also played Mabinogi, but I didn't really understand it, like the actual like the gameplay.
Yeah.
I kind of just liked making characters in that because I liked the way everyone looked.
Yeah, of course, because it was so anime. Like a lot of the games tried to get like that anime style, but I would feel like that was one of the first MMOs that really did capture like the MMO anime style, because a lot of them were just like straight up Western style. Like I think one of the Western ones that I played, being WoW. Like I sank so many hours into like I need Activision Blizzard to like send me a check to how many hours I spent on that game. Wow. Like I don't know, I really sank a lot of time into that game. I never retired. Like after, like you said, like it's too time consuming for me. Like I wouldn't really touch those games anymore. Like I see it, and as soon as I hear a game is an MMO, I'm like I close it. I don't want to hear about it anymore. Don't tempt me, because I will. Did you see there's this new game that is almost like a Pokemon HD kind of game? It looks like I think it's an MMO, or it's supposed to be an MMO. It looks like Pokemon, but really highly stylized. It looks pretty cool. I'm not gonna lie. I saw it, I was like, it looks like I might want to go back to playing MMOs, but also I don't want to.
Don't do it.
So what other games do you play?
Like outside of Megaten, I don't really play that many games anymore. Now that I've kind of gotten older, it's like, if I like, it's got to be something I can play quickly and I can just like drop. That it's not like that's not time consuming. So all the games I play a lot of are like Monster Hunter World. I'm like super into the Dark Souls series. Like Monster Hunter in general, I'm super into. And then I recently got into Warhammer. I don't know if you're into that, but I like.
Are you doing Warhammer the tabletop?
No, I wish. It's too expensive.
Really? Yeah.
Someone gifted me Vermintide 2, and I've been just like super into it, and it made me. I like learned a lot about like just.
Yeah, the lore is crazy good. It's so much stuff to go about it. I do play Warhammer, actually, but tabletop, not I'm lucky enough that I have friends that own card shops. Yeah, that's my other issue that I have is cards. Like I used to play a lot of cards and board games. In fact, I even made a board game with a friend that was published. But Yeah, like I just sing so much songs like D&D. Like I just love RPGs in general.
Yep.
So like D&D and Warhammer is just really fun. But I'm lucky enough that I'm in a position where like I have too many friends that play, so like I don't have to spend any money on them.
Yeah.
That's why I play them too, because I don't have to spend money on them. So like it doesn't cost me to just go to my friend's house, or like I said, a friend has a car shop and they literally play games there like every Thursday or something like that. So it's like a good way to just kind of hang out with people and play some
Yeah.
other stuff. Yeah.
So then,
Um,
quick question then: what is your favorite race in Warhammer? Like, just like if you had to choose one, like, what is like the race that's like the coolest to you?
I'm gonna sound really basic here.
Mm.
I love elves in every game. High elves, I'm gonna say.
I was gonna say because if you like the, because high elves are pretty interesting, dark elves are pretty interesting,
Yeah.
but I forgot the other name, the other elf, but they're kind of lame. They're like,
The
dang, I don't remember what they're called, but
which
that's
ones?
cool. Hmm?
Which ones?
Dang it, I don't. I feel like they're wood elves. I think
Wood
there's
elves,
more.
all that. Wood elves are always kind of boring. In most like
Yeah.
RPGs, they're always really boring. I always try to see like dark elves are cool because they're like they're what they do and everything. But I always try to like high elves cool, dark elves cool, regular elves cool, wood elves kind of boring. Like that's always how I
Yeah.
feel about them. Even on D&D, I always try to pick elves or like some mix of elf and something else that I
Mhm.
can just like do something cool with it. I just like D&D because you have like a lot of freedom to like you make your character with a lot of crazy shit and people will take your word for it. So so like I like that a lot. But yeah, elves is my race of choice in pretty much any RPG. What about you?
For me, like my favorite Warhammer race is Skaven.
Oh, the Skavens, yeah, that's
Dude,
nice.
Skaven is they're like so cool to me. I think
Yeah,
it's just I don't know. I don't know what it is, but I've always thought rats were like an interesting like
yeah,
animal.
yeah.
Like I don't want like a pet rat or anything. They're just like cool looking animals. So like
Right. So for anybody that doesn't know what a skaven is, it's basically think of like a giant humanoid rat, like a werewolf, but a rat
yeah.
with a heavy style armor, kind of like almost like I don't know how to even describe it, but yeah. I mean, what kind of? I'm sorry, that I'm thinking like a you're playing. What are you playing? A warrior skaven or?
Um. So like in war, I mean in the one game that I'm playing, which is Vermintide,
Mhm.
it's literally just you killing Skaven. You like fight Skaven Beastmen, and I forgot the name of the zombie looking guys, but it's literally just you play as one of like four heroes, and that's all the game is. Just
Really interesting. I honestly never touched the video games because I had a bad experience with a D&D game, and ever since then I'm like I never really touched the games. And I
yeah,
heard there's some good things about the Warhammer online games and everything, but I'm like I really wanna wait to see whether they make a fully actualized tabletop style game.
that'd be
There is a game that they did not long ago called Disco Elysium. You will actually like it. It's a tabletop game, but it's in a video game format.
uh,
So it has so many paths to choose. You start as a kind of like a detective kind of guy, and as you explore the world, it's just like it just opens up. The artwork is beautiful, and it's a cool mix between RPG, like traditional tabletop RPG, and video game. You get good both styles, and I really like the style that they went for. It's a really underrated game.
what's it called again?
Disco Elysium. I'll send you a link about it because it's super
Oh,
cool.
I've heard of that game before. I've heard of it. I never.
Mhm.
Yeah, I've heard good things about it, but like I said, like I barely play games, and when I do, it's just it has to be something I can do quick, and that's why I like Vermintide because I just do a couple missions, kill a bunch
Oh
of
yeah,
Skaven.
yeah.
I feel bad because I like Skaven, so it's like I don't want to kill them, but
Yeah, it's that's what it is, man. I totally feel you on that though. The older that I get, and I feel like a lot of the younger audiences probably like don't get it. Like sometimes you just want to play a game for like a few hours and like a
yeah,
few even like 30 minutes. Sometimes you don't get the time to really like sit down and sink your teeth into a game. And that
Yeah.
I kind of like a big struggle for me sometimes, especially when I'm like I stream video games, and sometimes I'm like, man, like I really just want to play like a little bit of this game and that's it. And I drop games really fast. Like if I start a game and I'm like, this is not catching my attention, I just drop it. And sometimes people are like, oh, do you need to play it? It gets better. I'm like, yeah, but is it gonna get better in the next 30 minutes or in the next 10 hours?
Yeah, that's basically how it's got it. Like, from that's exactly like you. That's exactly how I feel. It's gotta like I gotta know if like because I'm gonna be because especially because some games are long, which is good if you really like it. But when it's like a 100-hour game and I'm just like, oh, this is okay.
Right. Yeah. Exactly. I got some one of my videos. I did a Persona clone video, basically talking about games that are kind of like Persona for like some different reasons. And there's one game that I mentioned in a video that I dropped because I wasn't really invested in the game. I wish I remember the name of it. I can probably tell you if I look up at the comments. And I got a comment, like a bunch of comments, telling me that I need to go back to the game and play it again. It's really fun. And I'm like, look, I played 10 hours of it, and then I went and watched the anime for another like 5 or 6 episodes. Blue Reflection Ray.
Oh, I never heard of it.
Yeah, it's an RPG style of like the Persona games and whatever. They're like, you gotta play it and everything. And I was like, look, if I played 10 hours of a game and it just didn't get better, I don't really want to play another 10 hours for it to get good. Like, I understand.
Yeah.
I understand that people feel the need to defend the games they like, but it's okay for. I think a lot of people have this, especially like on Twitter and everything. It's okay for other people to dislike your game. Like it's fine.
Yeah,
Like, yeah, it doesn't hurt my feelings if people don't like Persona 3. A lot of people don't like Persona 3, and I'm not worried about it. I like it. You know, like my personal enjoyment doesn't affect me whatsoever whether you like the game or not.
Exactly. I think that's the worst thing about being a content creator is as soon as I say my opinion, it's like people get really upset because if I told you my best example is when I said I didn't like Lotus Juice, and people were like I lost way more followers than I did. Like I knew I was gonna like get backlash or whatever.
Yeah.
I didn't know that people were gonna be like, well, like kill yourself and stuff.
Oh, were the people really saying that? Oh man, I did. Yeah. I lost track of that. So I know you said the comment about it. I thought about commenting about it, but I was like, it's just an opinion. I don't really care. Like he can like whoever he likes. Luckily, like Lotus Juice is only on some songs. He's not like. He's not like the main singer on every Persona game or something like that. Like if you were like, man, I hate Lynn or something, I'll be like, yo, she sings pretty good. But yeah, no, I mean, if you have an opinion, whatever, it doesn't matter to me.
And I think the thing that was getting me was when people were like, well, his music is pretty good. I'm like, well, he didn't make the music in Persona 3. The Persona 3 music is really good. He just wrote the lyrics and sang over the songs. Meguro made the music. So like, I like Persona 3's music. Like I've never disliked it. I just don't like Lotus Juice. But the thing that's funny is like it's kind of like when we like a little bit before we started, we were talking about Strange Journey, and you said you liked Strange Journey Redux, and I said I don't like Strange Journey Redux. When you said you liked it, it didn't kill me. I was just like, oh, cool.
Yeah, you weren't like, man, how dare this guy like this game I hate.
Like, yeah, like, bro, I mean, at least you could afford it. Like, it's hard to get the regular one, even if you wanted it.
Right, yeah, for sure. Yeah, we were just talking about how, like, I saw it at a bargain bin for $20, and I was like, oh, I'll pick it up later. You know, this game is $20. And the next time I see it, it's $150, and I was like, God fucking damn it, what the hell?
But, yeah.
Never again. Yeah, I feel bad. I really do feel bad for the newcomers, the people that are just starting to play the games, especially like I've seen I've seen a lot of flack. You know, people that give flack to like new Persona 5 fans or whatever. But you know, someday they're gonna get into Persona. Someday they're gonna get into Megaten. Someday they're gonna like. I know a lot of people started with Persona games. You know, like just give them some time. They're gonna get into the games and everything, and I just feel bad for them because now the games are somewhat expensive. Like I remember picking up some games for like really cheap. Like I think I picked up Persona 3 for like $15 or something like that. So I don't know. It was a really cheap price when I bought it. So I feel bad now that some of the new people are just starting now. They're trying to buy all these games. You're like, yeah, you're gonna pay a pretty penny for this game. So I do feel bad about that. But I it is what it is. It happens.
Yeah.
So what is your first Shin Megami Tensei game, the Megaten in general?
Nocturne, yeah. I literally like in 2004, so I think Nocturne came out in 2003.
Yeah.
One of my friends had bought it and didn't like it, and he was like, "Oh, well, like this is like my emo phase." So I like because I'm old. I'm like a lot older than a lot of the other content creators.
Yeah.
So like when I was in high school, I was like I had this phase where I was like into emo music, like My Chemical Romance and whatever.
Oh shit, me too.
Which I'm going to see them in concert next year. I bought tickets to see them.
Oh, what? Really? You're lucky. My state is not having a concert for My Chemical Romance. I may have to find another state and just go because I really want to see that reunion.
Yeah, you should go because I don't know if they're gonna come back. Like I feel like this is just like their one thing, and it's gonna go off.
Yeah, I think so too. I'm gonna try. I'm gonna try to see if I can get some friends and we get some tickets and go over to another state. That'll be pretty cool to do.
I forget like when it is. I think it's like late 2022. I don't know if they're still on sale or whatever.
Yeah,
but
they were going to do it on 2020, right? Before the pandemic started. Yeah, I remember I saw the trailer. They literally had a trailer for this. This is when you know people are hyped for something. They make a trailer. They had like millions of views. I was like, man, I literally that day that I saw the trailer, I pulled out my old Welcome to the Black Parade album that I had. I listened to the entire album and I was like, man, this song still is donging. I love it.
Dude, you could still go. I just checked. It's like there's tickets still on sale, and it's October 2022. So you have like
hell yeah, we got a whole year. Yeah. I'm gonna try to get some other emo friends and go. Hell, I could even go to California, but 2022 should be fine, right? With the pandemic and everything.
Dude,
we said so last year, right?
Yep. But
yeah.
Oh, yeah, so like my friend gave me Nocturne, and he was like, "Oh yeah, well, you like emo stuff," and I guess in his mind it was like too edgy or something. So he gave it to me, and then I just really liked it. So then after that, I got into the rest of the series, but I couldn't afford the game because I was still in high school. So like I didn't buy another game until Persona 3.
Yeah.
And when Persona 3 came out, I actually thought it was like a sequel to Nocturne.
You were like, you must have been confused as hell. Yeah, that Shin Megami Tensei tagline was a big mistake. I mean, it's a good thing because it's a good thing in a sense because it really got people into the games for like Megaten and everything. But on hindsight, years that passed, I feel like it never really made sense for them to actually add it.
I think so too.
Yeah, I just really think that. Persona would have sold regardless. I don't think that Megaten really had that much power to really drive it forward at the time. And even then, like, it's confusing for our newcomers when you see things like Devil Digital Saga or the Devil Survivor games. I'm sorry, Devil Summoner. Yeah, is it Devil Survivor or Devil Summoner?
Well, Devil Survivor is the DS.
The DS games, the Devil Survivor games. That they are not technically not Shin Megami Tensei games.
They're
still in the universe, but in the grand scheme of things, still a Megaten game. But it's not a Shin Megami Tensei game that needs to have the tagline. And it's always like I always thought about it like that. I was like, it's really not, but it is, and it's just so confusing for like new people to go into the series and everything. But it's kind of weird. You know what's really funny? I actually also got started with Nocturne, but it was because of Devil May Cry. Huge fan of Devil May Cry, and I remember seeing I was really into the games, and I remember seeing a YouTube video. This is way back when YouTube had just started, by the way, and there was a video about the fight between Demi-Fiend and Dante, like the very first time that they meet, and I was like,
Yeah.
"What the hell? What is that? What's going on? Who is this? What's happening?" And I remember just trying to find out Nocturne, and I couldn't find a copy. Literally, like I live in the middle of nowhere. At least at the time was like middle of nowhere. There wasn't even like there was only like one GameStop, and it was like 30, 40 minutes away. And I was like, I wasn't going to tell my mom to drive me to GameStop to see if they had a copy of Nocturne. So because I checked that they didn't. Like I called and they didn't. I was like, okay, well the next one is like an hour away, so we're not gonna do that. And I really waited so many years, like a bit until Persona 3 came out. When I played Persona 3, and then I finally went back and played Nocturne, and I was like, man, I really missed out on this game. I was kind of mad that I didn't get it whenever, but it was the same thing. You know, it's like it was just a couple of years difference, so it wasn't a I was through that. I went through that same emo phase, and I was like, I feel like that was just part of like the early 2000s with like a specific crowd. Like those games, just it was banging. Like I still, although now I don't really think that Nocturne held up as well as other Megaten games. I still think it's a really good game for like a lot of different reasons, but I think at the time, in hindsight, it's a really cool game to get into. Like if it's your first game, you can pretty much enjoy any of other Megaten games, because it's already a game. Like if you really think about it, like if you can get into the style of Nocturne, other Megaten games make a lot more sense. And like like a style or whatever. So I don't know. I really like starting with that game. I just have a lot of nostalgia with that game.
Yeah.
Yeah, and that's literally the same. The first thing that I said when I did my review for Nocturne, I was like, "Yo, I'm gonna be frank here. I think that a lot of my nostalgia is gonna be coming out here in this video, because I really was nostalgic whenever I played the HD remaster, which it was a little bit of a disappointment in a lot of ways, but I still like I was still like having fun, but I was like, am I having fun because I like the game, or is it because I have a lot of nostalgia with this game? I really wondered that the entire time that I was playing it, and I really couldn't come up with a reasonable answer as far as like whether I was really enjoying it as much because it was just like the nostalgia factor. I'm like, it's been years since I played Nocturne.
Yeah, I think the remaster was the first time I played it in like 10 years or something, or however long between the original and the remaster. I literally didn't play it ever since I beat it. So it was like, to me, like for me, like whenever I play a game, I just like don't think about like anything besides how it feels like right then. So like when I replayed it, I was like, oh yeah, like I like it. It's still good. Like some of the games, some of the other ones, when I replayed them, I didn't like them nearly as much. Like the last Bible games, or even like Persona 2, I didn't like the gameplay nearly as much as I did the first time. And I feel like when you first get into the franchise, I think you like things more because it's just new to you. So you're like, oh, that's so different. But then once you get familiar with it, that's when you start to like think about, is this actually good? You know?
Yeah, absolutely. I think that's a thing that I can agree with you on. It's really hard to see sometimes where you see it in certain things. I've seen this a lot. Like now, I see this in retrospective and kind of like in a new perspective too, with the newcomers, the people that are now like coming in from other places, like the Persona 5 fandom now, or like the people that are just starting with Persona 5. They're like, I've seen so many people go like, oh my god, like Persona 5 is a masterpiece and everything. I'm like, waiting till you play other Megaten games. Your brain is gonna explode. Like, basically, that's how I feel about it. And it's not like, that's not saying that Persona 5 is a bad game or anything, but like a lot of the things, a lot of the praise that I've seen for Persona 5, I'm like, I've seen so many, like I really cannot wait for other people to really like envelop on the other games and like start discovering and everything. But also like, it's really hard to be in the perspective that I'm in, because I think I started in a place where the old games weren't too old and the new games were like new, you know, like, so like to me, like I'm started, like I think it's the same thing with you, like the way that we started, it was in a good spot where like you look at the games, like older games, like they're not that old, but now if you look at Persona 5, you're like, look at Black Bible and you're like, man, that game is ancient. Like the perspective of where you fall whenever you first start does really influence, like I guess the way that you look at games, because I've seen a lot of people go like, oh man, Persona 3 doesn't hold up. I'm like, Yo, like I still think it's a pretty solid game as far as like a PlayStation 2 game. But I grew up with a PlayStation 1. I literally played at SNES for like the first few years of my life. So like, like I don't really see games the way that a lot of people see them. I guess when I saw the PlayStation 2 games were considered retro, I was like, oh my god, I'm old. Like,
Pretty much.
yeah, I was like, so I saw somebody, I saw a YouTube video, and they're talking about like top 50 retro games, and like half of them were PlayStation 2 games. So I was like, this is not retro. Like SNES, I'll give you a retro, but PlayStation 2 was just. And then I checked the time. I'm like, it was 20 something years ago. Wow, that's a long time ago. Like I don't know. Like sometimes the perspective also, like our perspective, I think, really does influence like the way that we like I guess like grew with these games and everything, because I feel like that's what happened to a lot of the like, people that started back then. They just really grew as the games progressed and everything. It's been a good progression. I really appreciate like the way that they've done things and everything. I know there's been always been this talk in the community as far as like, oh, is Shin Megami Tensei dead, or what's going on with Shin Megami Tensei? And then like there's always like new games coming out. They may not come out as often as say like the Persona spin-offs, but even if you think about Persona, besides the spin-offs, with this we're still only in number 5. Like number 6 is not even out yet, so it's not like we're getting like all these Persona games, you know. It's like Persona games, spin-offs, which is not really like the, I don't know. I see it as a different. I just see them as different games altogether. Maybe that's just the way that I perceive those games, opposed to how some people really just want to be like, oh, this is like there's 32 Persona games or something, and I'm like, no, there's 5 Persona games and a bunch of spin-offs. I don't know. That's my thoughts and feelings on that end. So moving from SMT 3 Nocturne and Persona 3, did you go forwards as far as like waiting for new games, or did you go backwards and try to play the old games?
I went forward for the most part, and then as there'd be gaps like between like Persona 4 and Strange Journey, there wasn't a whole lot, so I went back, and that's when I played Persona 1 and 2. I bought those when they were $50. I bought both of them for $50 from some guy.
Wow,
yeah,
nice.
Yeah, literally. So basically $25 each is what I mean. So like,
yeah.
And then they re-released all those games for the PSP, which I had a PSP at the time. So then I was doing that. So for the most part, I was just going forward, and then I didn't know how to emulate or anything, so I would only get games that were in English. So then I tried Last Bible, I tried the Demi Kids games, and that's pretty much how I went. And then it wasn't until like later on when emulation became easier for me, because I've never been good at like technology. So like I had to have it, so it was so easy that like even a boomer can do it. So that's how I got into it.
Yeah, I feel you there. So I had a PSP too, but one of my mates that I befriended on high school, he had a friend that basically had a business of hacking the PSPs to unlock them or whatever, so you could download the ISO files or emulate anything on that or whatever. So I really, like, at the time was just like, I don't really care, but the guy was like, dude, just give him $10 and he'll do it. I was like, all right, well, I got it, and I really just went crazy with the Megaten games. That's really the time where I played so many of them. Just like went through the old ones. I don't even care if they were in Japanese or not. I just played them. Like, there's a lot. I have weird recollections of playing Megaten, the first one, the very first game. I don't even know what's going on, but I'm playing it. I think a lot of people get intimidated by playing games in other languages, but if you know how to play RPGs, you still understand the concept of like the gameplay. You may not understand what's going on, but there's enough context of what you see in the screen, and like the combat, and you kind of learn the combat and everything as you go along. So don't be intimidated of playing Japanese games. I know a lot of people are like, "Oh my god, I don't want to play it because it's in Japanese or whatever." Don't be intimidated, but that there's not only that, but there's a lot of people that have made like guides and they have made like summaries, even though they're not fully translated. There are a lot of people that have played the games, and there's like a lot of guides that you can like find out for that kind of stuff nowadays. But yeah, I was like, I went ham. I just went all out, played all kinds of stuff. I even recall downloading what is that game? Demi Crow loves this game. What the hell is this called? The Jack Frost. What is that Jack Frost game? Jack Bros. Yeah, Jack Bros. Yeah. I remember looking at the game. I'm like, why is it red? I honestly didn't even know that there was a. What is that console called?
Virtual Boy.
Yeah, the Virtual Boy. Yeah, I didn't know about the Virtual Boy because I don't know, for some reason never heard of it. So when I checked that game out, it was like all red, and I was like, why is this game red? Like, is there something wrong with like the graphics? It must be a bad like a bad ISO, like I got wrong or something. And I dropped it and I played it again until like much later I heard. I was like, oh, the Virtual Boy is like a console that is supposed to be like a red 3D. Like, I was like, what? That's so crazy. Like, that was like years later though. Like, I remember just looking at it. I was like, why is it red though? I've never understood the red part. Like, I understand the 3D, I just don't understand what the red was about. Could have been any color, or did he have to be red?
No, it had to be red because of the weird 3D effect that they tried to do.
Oh, okay, okay.
Yeah, I don't have a Virtual Boy. I just have the game, so I don't know what it actually feels like to play it. That's kind of one of the things I want to try though. Is I definitely want to play it.
You know what? I saw a YouTube video the other day that is like 30 minutes long of this guy creating a Virtual Boy handheld. Like, he legit went through like this whole process of like finding the correct chipsets and the correct type of screen and everything like that to make the entire system into a handheld. And it was a really interesting and creative video. Like, I was like, man, that is so cool. I wish I had the skill to do something like that. But I also know that it took him months to just like design because he like designed the chipboards and everything, which is kind of insane. Like, there's a difference between just emulating a console and like, or like even like repurposing a console and actually like doing all this crazy stuff, making a new motherboard for it, and like moving all the parts and everything like that, making a controller part of the thing and everything. I don't know, it's insane kind of work, but I always like to look at those videos. I'm like, you are so good at making stuff. Like, I appreciated that kind of stuff. Yeah. I don't know what is going on, but it's really entertaining. So speaking of entertaining content, what kind of content do you like on YouTube? Do you watch any kind of content?
Yeah. Let's see. Let me just look at more. For the most part, so like I don't actually watch that many like Megaten people, or I don't watch Megaten content at all. Really, I think I only barely recently started watching Megaten like YouTubers like maybe 3 months ago, but it's not like my main things. For the most part, I watch like documentary stuff. Like I watch podcasts that are just like about like history. One of my favorite YouTube channels is called the Fall of Civilizations podcast.
The what?
All they do, the Fall of Civilizations podcast.
Fall of Civilization podcast. Cool.
All they do is just go over like in detail the beginning of like an ancient civilization all the way to what led to them like fading away. Like all the stuff I like watching is basically like educational mostly. But I do watch like I do watch some kind of like sometimes I'll watch stuff like exercise stuff is a lot. I like to learn about muscles and stuff. So if it's sometimes it'll be educational things about muscles, but for the most part, pretty much it's that. And then I like watching YouTube drama, which is like a weird thing, but I've always thought it's funny or interesting to just watch. Like, I watch like this YouTuber called Bo Blacks. All he does is read like Twitter drama.
Really? Interesting.
Like just really dumb. Like, it is like stuff that doesn't matter, but it's like my I guess it's like the equivalent of like how people like watching reality TV. I just think it's weird that there's so much drama on YouTube. Like I didn't even like. I don't even watch the YouTubers they talk about. Like,
Right.
but
Interesting. Yeah. I always see the videos like that like pop up in my recommended. I don't know why, but YouTube, the algorithm loves those videos. You
yeah.
always see them popping up on the recommended and stuff. And because I don't know the YouTubers, oh, by the way, like I don't consume much YouTube. Like I know it's
Mhm.
like weird for a YouTuber, but I don't actually like sit down and watch like YouTubers. And I'm like, oh man, it's YouTube channel. There's like very few channels that I watch, and it's not none of it is Megaten. I just don't consume that kind of content, but yeah,
Mhm.
you always see those like all this drama and stuff, and I'm like, who is this people like? And then you click on the to like find out who they are, and they're like 3, 4, 5 million subscribers. You're like, holy crap, like they're pretty big, but like who are they?
Yeah, that's pretty much how it is. Like all the big people are kind of bad though. I've always found that like my favorite YouTubers tend to be kind of like in the middle. Like they'll still have like hundreds of thousands of subscribers,
Hmm.
but once you get into the millions, I feel like most of those people tend to kind of be like mediocre. I guess.
Yeah, I don't know. I feel like I think there's a combination of like, a few different things, right? So you have the people that grew really big really fast because of some kind of fad. Like I feel like some of them just like they had something going on, but then like they don't want to do that anymore, so they do something else, and like what they do is like not even entertaining. Like I think I'm
Mhm.
gonna get some slack, but who was this guy? My one of my friends really liked this guy, Markiplier. She really likes that guy as far as like the content that he used to make,
Yeah.
and I knew he made like let's plays videos like playing like games and reacting and stuff like that. But then
Mm.
like I she sent me a video and he was just like doing some random stuff, and then I looked at his channel and I was like, this guy's not even doing Let's Plays anymore. He's just doing some random stuff nobody cares about. But people still watch it because I guess his personality is like good enough. I don't know. I see like there's some people that stick around for the personality, but there's some
Mm.
people that like there's so many subscribers. I'm like, they have no personality. What is this channel about? I don't know. I should be the one to talk, right? I don't really feel like I'm like the kind of personality for YouTube, but yeah, that's just how I feel. But I'm like, I don't know if I'm a YouTube personality type of person, but you see some people that are so charismatic. You like you hear them talk, and like everything they say is so entertaining, and I'm like, how do they do this? Like they're not even talking about anything important, but the way they carry themselves, the way like they say things and everything
Mm.
makes them feel really charismatic. I don't really know if there's another word for that, but I'm always like I don't think that's even something you can even learn. I feel like it's just like the way that they are. I guess I don't know. Have you seen any YouTubers? You're like, man, this person just knows how to talk.
The YouTube, the kind of YouTube you're describing is like the kind I really don't like. So
Yeah,
like so like when it comes to like Markiplier or whatever, I'm just like it's just too loud. And I'm
yeah,
not
yeah, yeah, yeah. Of course, yeah, yeah, exactly.
yeah
Yeah, yeah. That's why that's why I don't watch that kind of stuff. But yeah,
yeah
like my friend was, she was a big fan. I was like, I don't see the appeal to that. I like, I watch YouTube videos that are like informative. Like I learn something from them, or I find them entertaining in some kind of way. Like not like in like a haha funny kind of thing. More
yeah
like for example, there's a video that I watched recently about a guy who had an interview with GPT-3, which is an AI, one of the most modern AI in the world right now. And
uh-huh
he just had a conversation and he recorded it and everything, and he posted just the interview that he had with the AI and kind of like his insight on how things work, and it was really interesting video. Like I was like, wow, this is legitimately such an interesting concept of a video, because you know you always hear about AIs, but like how really is developed is an AI, right? You don't really like think about it too much, but when you see like the kind of advancement on like AIs is beyond what I like thought it was, and it was just he really didn't. He tried to be as I guess as less biased as possible when it come to it. Like he tried to not to feed any information as far as who he is or what the purpose of the interview was. He was just having a conversation with him, and amusing him with it. And it was just very interesting to see the kind of responses that he had and everything. That's the kind of content that I like. Something that I have something to take away from. Like I watched it and I'm like, I didn't waste 30 minutes of my life watching this. You know.
Yeah.
So, are there any YouTubers that you will say are your inspirations, like something that inspire you to be a YouTuber or to be this Megaten content creator?
For like Megaten, not really, because I used to watch some Megaten people before.
Mm-hmm.
Like I used to watch this guy named Rosenbrand, and he had a podcast called Cathedral of Shadows, and he would just talk. It would be just like a Megaten podcast, but I didn't really like his Megaten podcast. I just kind of wanted to kind of just see what it was all about.
Yeah.
For me, what really kind of inspired me was like it's literally the kind of YouTube I watch. I watch people who give a bunch of information about something and because they know so much about it, like I actually care about what they're saying, because like I used to watch like a lot of YouTubers that would do true crime like YouTube, so they would just like talk about crime, they would give information.
Mm-hmm.
And what I noticed is like you can watch like 30 people talk about one story, and then there'll always be like one or two people who do a much better job of like researching and giving more details than just the stuff you find on like Wikipedia, for instance.
Right. Yeah, I see that. I see you as this YouTube historian of Megaten. You always have like interesting bits of like the development aspect of a game or something like that. I always look forward to like watching this kind of videos. Like I do, although I don't consume a lot of Megaten videos, I do watch yours because there's a difference between sitting down and watching somebody else's opinion, and we were talking about it earlier, and like literally just sitting down and learning more about how they made a game, or like what was the thought process behind Nocturne, because I know you did a couple of Nocturne videos as far as like development and behind what they did and everything, and it was really interesting stuff. When I was watching, I was like, yeah, I like this kind of stuff, especially a game like Nocturne that like I said earlier, I really hold close to my heart. I find like that kind of content to be like productive, if you will.
Yeah, and there's like the only YouTuber I could think of that actually I could say inspired me is this guy called Pat Mac, and all he does is like he does like merchandise videos. So he'll do like a history of like the Sonic plush, and he'll go in detail about like the entire history of like when the first Sonic plush came out, what happened with this Sonic plush, what are these rare ones, and I think the thing that I got from him was like that need to be really detailed with whatever I'm talking about, and then also I like the way he talks because he's not like Markiplier, where Markiplier feels loud. He just talks. He cares about what he's talking about.
Right.
So that's what made me go, well, I'm not gonna make a video unless I actually care about what I'm gonna talk about. So sometimes I'll write like a lot of scripts, and I won't ever record them because I'm like, oh, I was interested, but now I'm not interested anymore. So I don't want to record it because I want to wait for me to actually be more interested in talking about it. So like, around that time when I was making all those Nocturne videos, I have way more Nocturne scripts. Like, I just didn't want to talk about them anymore because I was already kind of like moving on mentally. I was already moving on to talking about other stuff. So I was like, man, I'll talk about this Nocturne stuff again, like when I feel like it.
I think it's also kind of the way that the industry now works with stuff. Because there's, I think this is just certain aspect of YouTube that sometimes you start doing a lot of content of the same type, and then you realize people like either lose interest, or also like you lose interest because there's more stuff coming up, like with Shin Megami Tensei 5, Persona 25th anniversary, that kind of stuff. So like sometimes I'm like, I feel like I'm just moving on with the crowd, and sometimes I'm like, should I make this video or should I just move on and just kind of move on with something else, because there's all that stuff to talk about and everything. So I feel like it's always kind of like one of those things where you're sometimes in the hype with everything that's going on, but then you also kind of like, I kind of want to talk about other stuff that is not what is particularly popular. Sometimes I find those kind of stuff to be a little tricky for YouTube.
Yeah.
Because YouTube doesn't know what to do with your video. It just kind of sits there until it kind of picks up. I don't know. It may be different for you because you do have a bigger audience than I do. But I find that sometimes when I do touch up on a subject that YouTube is not trending or nothing's going on, it kind of doesn't know what to do with my video. So it just kind of leaves it there, like like the algorithms doesn't pick it up. It just kind of just leaves it there. My viewers will watch it, but like it's not really like out there on the rounds or anything like that.
Like from what I like, because I'm like it's like I'm super into like just data in general. So like that's why I'm like constantly asking questions on on Twitter. I'm not just trying to like farm engagement. I'm literally like I want to know what people think about something, or I want to know or want or whatever. So like I look at my analytics all the time, and for the most part, most of the people who watch me aren't subscribed. So like if it hits 7,000 views, it'll be like 5,000 are people who are new and aren't subscribed, and like 2,000 are people who are. and I can kind of tell what videos might do well. But usually what I just try to do is whatever, like if I care about the topic, that's what I'm going to talk about. I don't care how it does.
Yeah.
Like I think there's a couple ones that I knew were going to bomb, and I was upset because I knew that I knew it was going to bomb. So
yeah, right. Yeah, I randomly dropped a 13 Sentinels video because I was really feeling on like the mood to like talk about 13 Sentinels, which is a really fun game. I really actually like that game. And I was like, you know what? I want to talk about 13 Sentinels. So I did a video about it and everything. And like, I fully expected it to bomb. I really did. I think it got like 20 views in the first day. I was like, oh man. Really the algorithm didn't know what to do with that. It just kind of just lived there. I was like, I hope it picks up eventually. But then again, like, I don't know. The game may just be a cult classic at this point because I don't think it's going to pick up many more steam than it did.
Yeah, it kind of like I think in Asia it's like still held pretty high. Like when I look at like Atlas Japan post about Aegis Rim, I'll see a lot of interaction with it. But then when like Atlas West tweets about it, like when they tweeted the plushes, like no one cared. Like it got pretty. I mean, it got interaction, but it got a lot less than what they normally get.
Yeah, of course. And I feel like it's also a little bit of the marketing whenever the first game got announced, because I remember keeping an eye on that game whenever it was first announced in Japan, and I was like, okay, that's cool, but when is this game coming over here in the West, right? And we finally get an announcement. The first trailer that we see is this character trailer. I was like, this is the worst kind of trailer to choose to showcase a brand new game. Because, like, nobody cares about the characters. Nobody knows what this game is. So, it's like, to me, it was like, that was, like, the kind of the wrong trailer to start marketing the game with. And then from then on, I didn't really hear much about it. And then the comments sometimes, it's kind of really infuriating. Because you will say, like, King Goomba, and, like, a bunch of people asking for, like, where's Persona 5 on Switch? Or, what was it? I don't know. I think that was the case at the time or something. And I'm like, man, why are you doing that? Why don't you just leave them alone and let them, like, market the games that they're trying to market? I feel like that sometimes. I'm like, let Atlas market the games that they're trying to focus on right now. Persona 5 and Switch will eventually come. I feel pretty solid on that one. I feel like it's eventually going to come at some point. So, port begging is not going to do anything. Especially not Atlas West. They don't even choose that kind of stuff. That's Atlas Japan. Go port beg them over there.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah, like just like for anybody that is still thinking that Atlas West is basically just a publisher. They don't make games. They don't make decisions. They don't do any of that stuff. They literally just localize the games in the West. That's their job. So port begging them is not gonna do anything. They don't decide any of that stuff.
Yeah, that's like yelling at the cashier at McDonald's and being like, "Bring back the McRib." It's like they don't choose.
Yeah, they're literally just there every time. And I see that. I used to comment and say stuff like that, and I was like, you know what? These people are just I don't know if they get it or not, or they just don't care. and they just want an outlet to tell somebody to do something. But yeah, if you're listening and you're kind of like a Persona 5 just starting, just know Atlas West doesn't do any of that stuff. They don't control that, so you can tell them every day if you want to, but it's not gonna go anywhere. We do get some times that we get to express our opinion with those what they do, the little surveys that they do sometimes. They do some in Japan, but they also do them in the West, so you can fill out the Western ones. And I think nowadays they're starting to see more of the audience in the West. I think they're really trying to see the value of the Western audience, especially with Persona 5 and what was that? What did Persona 4 Golden on Steam? I think they're really starting to see the numbers from the Western audiences as kind of maybe focusing, because I don't recall them doing a lot of surveys, but nowadays they've been doing quite a bit of surveys for the West as well, right?
Yeah, they've been doing like a survey a year at this point. I think they did one that was specific to Nocturne not too long ago as well. So it's like, just fill out the surveys, like the English surveys. Did you end up doing that video survey that they did?
Wait, which one? Did they not send you an email that they wanted to do a video interview? Where they talk to you? Okay. Well, I don't know if I'm supposed to talk about this or not, but I already did. So they did like this thing where they sent me an email about like the survey thing, and they did like a video kind of thing where they wanted to kind of know more information and how we felt about games and the reception and everything like that. So that wasn't necessarily about Nocturne; it was just kind of in general.
I saw a couple people got that, and I was like, man. Like, you know how badly I wanted to do that.
Yeah. So I saw that. I filled it out as soon as I saw it. I was like, oh shit, yes. We'll see what we get with that. And then I always try to fill out the surveys. I think we came to a disagreement at one point as far as the Japanese survey and everything. I think that it's just a different audience, and I see where you're coming from. When at the time I really didn't, because I was focusing more on like the West and our point of view. But at the end of the day, like the Japanese audience is so different. They react to things so much different from the West. I think some games that may bomb in Japan do pretty well over here, and then some games that do really well in Japan bomb over here, and it's just. It has nothing to do with the game being bad or good. It's just the audience is really different. And I think a lot of people don't really think about it like that. I think people are just like so cut dry as far as like, oh, like an audience is the same. Like it's really not. Like the West has like a really different idea as far as like how to approach game design and everything. And then Japan and their culture has like a very different way to approach even surveys. That the way that they're like so polite. When you go into the Twitter of the majority of the comments are so polite, even when they're port begging, they're super polite about it.
Oh, I didn't know that.
Yeah, you never seen like the when they're port begging. The other day I went to one of the posts, and this kid was port begging Shin Megami Tensei. What was it? Devil Summoner. The Raito games. He was port begging the Raito games onto modern consoles. And I was like, that was the first time that I seen it. But then I seen it a few more times where he's like, all the people are like trying to, but they're so polite about it. It's not like over here, like, oh, you better give us this game or else, right? It's more like, oh, I kindly, politely I'm asking you to see if you could remaster these games, like the style of the Nocturne games or whatever. I was like, that's like super nice of like somebody just to go on, like, it's almost like a fan letter. That's what it looked like to me, like a fan letter too. Because honestly, like when you go on the West, or Atlas West, and you see like the people port begging, it's usually like pretty rude. Like it's just like that, almost like they're demanding the game to be put on Switch or whatever. I'm like, that's a a way different approach to like even the poor begging. So yeah, different audiences, different type of mentality as far as how they want to approach that. And I don't think Atlas West really cares because they can't do anything about it either way. But I still don't want to have them have a bad opinion of the West. That's why I kind of see that point when you were talking about with the surveys, because like at the end of the day, like they don't know the audience of the West the same way that maybe Atlas West does, and I don't want them to like their first opinion of me or of like myself as a person is like going to their survey and telling them how to do games, and I'm like, no, maybe not in the most polite way possible. So I think that there's a good way to do things. So hopefully, like I said, I really do see them really growing more in the West. I see them that I think they're really trying to see that value of the West, the Western audience.
Yeah.
So speaking of Western audience, you are half Filipino, is that right?
Mm-hmm.
Do
Yep.
you speak the
Tagalog?
language?
No. That's like it's so like I'm a little weird because I was born in Guam and then we lived in the Philippines for like the first like 4 or 5 years. So I grew up speaking, or I was like Tagalog was my first language. But once I moved to the West or to like to California, my mom stopped speaking to me in Tagalog, and I just learned English, and I forgot most of that. So I don't speak it at all anymore. I can understand some stuff, but I understand Spanish more than anything else, because that's the language that I actually use. I don't really use. I mean, I have no one to talk Tagalog with, so there's no reason to know it. You know?
Okay. So
Yeah.
I actually in my area there's a lot of Filipino. Like I know a lot of Filipinos over here. So there's none in California. There are a lot.
No, there is, but like where I live, there's not a whole lot of like that. The population is mostly Hispanic and Black.
Yeah, yeah.
But, and I'm not just out here making friends, especially during the pandemic.
Yeah, over here, especially not in Los Angeles. I'm like, I don't think anybody's out there just going out there just trying to make friends in Los Angeles. It's probably not a good idea for you, by the way. No, yeah. So you don't practice any of the language. Did you ever try to learn it?
No, like this, like for me, I'm not someone who has like pride in my like ethnicity or whatever. I know there's like it's a pretty common thing with Filipinos that I know is like they'll be really proud to be Filipino. I'm like, well, I didn't choose to be Filipino. It just was something I was born. So like for me, I only like the only languages I was ever interested in was Spanish and Japanese. So those are the ones that I'm like actively learning. But like with Tagalog, I don't really care. I don't need to learn it. I don't have anyone I can talk to, and there's not really a whole lot of benefit for me to learn. So I'm just like, whatever.
Interesting. Have you ever gone to the Philippines?
Not since we left. When I was like 4 or 5.
Yeah,
So
you never like thought like, oh, maybe I should go visit the Philippines or anything like that.
No, because I keep up with some of the politics there. They're like, especially the last few years, it's been pretty dangerous.
Oh,
So
really?
like, yeah. So I don't really want to go there right now. Maybe in a few years when I because I like to travel a lot, but it's just not high on my list. I might go there
Yeah.
in a few years, but not yet.
Right on. Interesting. So you said you travel a lot. Where have you been?
Like a lot of different states. So like Utah, Nevada, Arizona, Texas. I've like New York was like my favorite of all the states I've been to.
Oh yeah.
I've been all up and down California. In like 2 weeks, I'm actually going to Alaska, so I'm gonna be gone, which is why I'm like hardcore pushing to get this video finished, because like by the time I get back from Alaska, I have to make sure that it's done so I can upload it, because I want to hit it. I want to hit the anniversary. I want it to come out on Strange Journey's anniversary.
Nice.
But but like yeah, I've been to England, to Portugal, Sweden, Spain, and yeah, I feel like there's
No
more places.
Japan.
Well, the my big thing is like for Japan, I'm doing like the 3 weeks next year,
Oh,
so
okay, really.
yeah, my
Yeah.
plan is to be there around the time that the SMT anniversary stuff is happening, so I can actually like if they like I want to I've been debating what time of the year, but I'm assuming that it's gonna be like happening during Tokyo Game Show time, so
Hmm.
I'm gonna try to like
Oh,
time my
really? You chose
yeah
a great time, actually. That
yeah
time in Japan is really, really nice. It's like the perfect weather. Because Japan
yeah
is a really moist country. Like, half
yeah
of the time is either raining or it's hot as balls. And it's like, it's not the kind of, like, dry hot. It's the really humid
yeah
type of, heat. So, yeah, you're going, like, in the best time. I think, like, that September, October time is real nice.
yeah.
Yeah,
Um,
so that's the best time. I'm actually trying to go too, but I wanted to go this year for the 25th anniversary of Persona. Like that was my plan for like a year or two ago. I was like, okay, but then this whole thing started, and I'm like, oh man, this is extremely disappointed because I really wanted to like go there and like experience. I was sure that we're gonna do some kind of concert or something like that. And I was like, okay,
mhm.
so I want to plan those dates or, Tokyo Game Show, whatever, like do all that. But, this whole pandemic situation just like really messed that up. But that I really wanted to do something like that because, yeah, it's just really cool. It's just, it's expensive, but it's also not. You're gonna have to know, like, not, you don't even know, be conservative with certain aspects and everything, but, it's a really good experience. It's really fun. Um, I strongly
Yeah.
recommend anybody that is wanting to travel to just try it. I know some people get like really scared about traveling or like going with people or not going with people. I actually traveled by myself to Japan.
Nice.
I was just myself. I didn't take anybody with me, no friends or anybody. I just literally like I didn't even have a plan either because I already knew a lot about Japan. So I was like, I'm just gonna. I had money and I had a time off from school
It's hard
and
to
everything. So I was like, okay. So what I'm gonna do is I'm gonna ask for vacation time for my job. I had 3.5 weeks,
Uh-huh.
and I just picked up like within like a couple days. I literally just went in and got my ticket and left.
Oh, wow.
Yeah, I went around like the areas that I already knew from like playing games or like my own research that I'd done from like places that I liked and everything, and I really loved the whole experience. Like it was really really fun. It's super safe too. It's weird because in other countries you like walk around at night and you're kind of like getting kind of a little worried or still like, oh man, I'm like, I don't even want to walk around with a $500 camera on me and everything. But in Japan, there's something you can do. You can really just walk around and there's no problem. No one is gonna steal your camera or anything like that. Um, it's a really safe country. It makes you feel so safe. So many things are so convenient too. Like in general, so it's a really convenient country. I thought the U.S. was really convenient, but Japan is like other level of convenience.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's really really convenient. Everything just made there to make the life easier. I think. Um, so where would you like to go in Japan? Like, do you have a
Oh, I already
itinerary?
have yeah, I already have my itinerary.
Yeah.
I'm the kind of person that I like to budget. I like to plan. So I already know everywhere I'm going to go. Like my big thing is mostly just I my big thing is I'm trying to find someone who'd be willing to sell. So I'm hitting up a lot of the arcade areas because I want to find someone who's willing to sell like the if it's still in function some print club machines.
Hmm.
So I want to buy at least one print club machine. I want to buy the Shin Megami Tensei Devil Children arcade cabinet.
Oh
Um,
really? Oh man, how are you gonna get that stuff back
that's that
home?
I know how to ship it. It's gonna just it's like the shipping. I probably do it shipping by sea just because it's a little bit cheaper. It would just take a long time.
Yeah.
But I like my main goal for that trip is mostly to go to a lot of the sites that are integral to like Shin Megami Tensei. Like, and I also want to specifically go to both Masakado's shrine and his grave, and the Inari, the Kuzunoha Inari shrine, and a couple of other
interesting locations.
Yeah,
most of the stuff is in Tokyo, though, right?
Kind of, yeah.
Yeah.
But also, so I'm not going to travel too far around like the different islands, but it's mostly just going to be like a big deep dive into like that sort of stuff, and then also mostly just like hunting for merch that's hard to find. It's not showing up online.
Yeah.
So
man, you can spend 3 weeks on Akihabara and Shibuya alone, trying to hunt those stuff and everything. Honestly, the entire experience of just being at Akihabara, and it's not really about like the weeb thing, like it's really just so overwhelming of like all the stuff that you see and everything. It's pretty ridiculous. It's a big, like, you just see so much stuff, and every store has like, there's a lot of used stuff, but there's also a lot of like, it's impressive how many times you see like stuff that otherwise in other places will be considered rare, and it's just out there. It's just like, wow, this is a brand new. I remember seeing a PlayStation Vita, no, PlayStation Portable, a Final Fantasy edition or of but brand new, in the box and everything. It wasn't really expensive or anything, and I was like, I really want to buy it just for the sake that I know this is a collector's piece that is pretty expensive, and it was being sold pretty cheaply. But and you see that a lot. Like, at first I was like, oh, that's cool, like I really want to get it. But then like you walk to the next store and they have other collector's piece that is also pretty expensive. That is not so expensive in Japan, and that's where they get you, because like every time that you go somewhere, there's something else, and I'm like, oh man, where's all this stuff coming from? There's a lot of stuff. It's really like, when it's not even joke whenever they say like everything that you can find is a lot of stuff. Jesus, it's really awesome actually. I actually did visit a lot of the Megaten places too, but it's more like the places that they reference in Megaten, the other way around, like the Tokyo places that a lot of people know and are often showcased in the games, like the Diet Building, for example, which is one of the places that they show in a lot of the Megaten games, or and every location, like, you don't really think about it, but when you're like, I know in Persona 5 it's like the whole Shibuya meme or whatever, but like even in like any of the other Megaten games, like, you see the places and like they're pretty spot on as far as like what they're representing and everything. Like a lot of the places, you see them, you're like, wow, that building is that building. And I saw a lot of those, and I was like, wow, this is awesome. I went to a lot of the shrines too. I think we were talking before we started the podcast, I love different cultures. I love like learning about like the philosophy and their the religions and everything. And the Shinto religion has always been like pretty interesting. So I went to a lot of the Shinto shrines in Tokyo, because there's a lot of them. Even just in Tokyo alone, there's so many of them that you can visit to the temples, and some of them are extremely fun to go through. You see them and you're like, wow, like this is so much to look at and everything. I just admire the culture. Is really, really interesting.
No, Shintoism is really interesting.
So that's pretty much on that front there with going to Japan. Do you have any other plans? Like, what are you going to do in Alaska?
It's mostly hiking. I'm a big fan of hiking. So part of the reason why we're going in September is because it's around the time where it's easier to see the Northern Lights, and then we're doing a 2-day hike in Denali National Park. It's like this big park in and like I've already like earmarked all the trails that I want to hit up there.
Oh,
It's
really?
mostly
So
stuff
you're
like that.
ready. You really do plan a lot on everything. Yeah, no. When I went to Japan, and even when I went to Canada, I legit just like packed my bags and went. Like I have no plans. I like to be spontaneous with that kind of stuff. I really just wanna envelop myself on like the place that I'm in. Like I just pick up a taxi, take me to the place that you feel like is the like an iconic place in this area, and like look at it. I just want to experience like the. I don't really want to plan too much. It's almost like when you think of like spoiling yourself kind of situation. Like I want to see it and experience it. That's always how I feel about it. I'm not a plan kind of person with trips. Although it's nice to know some things in advance. It's always important to kind of do some kind of research because you don't want to also be disrespectful or do something you're not supposed to do or things like that. So it's also a good plan to do some research in advance as far as like knowing what the ins and outs of the, even if it's not important stuff, some stuff just kind of not always common sense. I think common sense is different everywhere, right? Since common sense is not so common. So yeah. So any other plans for the rest of 2021?
Not in. Well, I mean, not in terms of any traveling. Most of my 2021 is like it's just all fitness. I'm trying to get back into cosplaying shape. So right now I'm like 18% body fat. When you get to like under 15 is when you can start seeing your six pack.
Mm-hmm.
So I'm trying to get to there again, and just making sure that I kind of keep balance. Like there's one of the things that I've been focusing on is doing less YouTube stuff, doing less social media stuff, and actually like doing other things that I'm interested in. So I don't just become just a Megaten person. I want to make sure that I'm still I can still pursue my other hobbies.
Yeah.
So, like playing drums, making art that's not Megaten fan art, which has been difficult because I hurt my shoulder.
Mm-hmm.
Just a lot of stuff like that. A lot of like self-care, I guess, is the phrase that people keep telling me it's called. But it's just focusing on making sure that I'm like happy with other things in my life outside of Megaten,
Mm-hmm.
and then making sure my videos are like I'm trying to focus on longer ones and making sure the videos are just a higher quality, because I've always got criticism for the way I edit or the way I record my voice.
I found that over the years you're gonna get that criticism no matter what. I just feel like people always want to give you, even if it doesn't come, it may not necessarily come from a bad place of like a mean spirit or anything like that, but I feel like there's always like this side of people that are trying to tell you how to do, like approach your channel or whatever. So I always see that I'm like, thanks, man. Like I always take the feedback. Like I always welcome feedback, as long as you're not being disrespectful. I am always gonna be welcoming of any kind of feedback in any kind of stuff. So, but I also see like you don't wanna just be consumed by YouTube, or like the content creation part of things. I 100% agree with you on how you feel about it, because what it is it's really easy sometimes to get sucked into it. Like once you're like in a rhythm base, it becomes almost like a thing that you're thinking about, or actively thinking about all the time. Or you're like always like, oh man, like, or maybe you're playing like a Megaten game, or even just like thinking about it. You're like, oh, that would be a good video, and like the next thing you know, like your entire time you're thinking about like all this other stuff that you could do for the Megaten channel, or like productivity wise or something like that. I'm a person that always has to do something. I'm not a sit down and chill kind of person. I'm always like, I gotta come up with something. Like I gotta work on something. I gotta think of stuff and everything. And speaking of like working out and everything, I literally just started like going back again to work out, because I'm like, to me, I'm the kind of person that, and I'm sure you can relate to this. It's really easy to keep up whenever you're already like, I'm sorry, it's easy to start sometimes whenever you're like, oh, okay, I want to work on everything. Then there's this period of you let go of it, like you don't do it as often, and then it's easy to fall back on like, oh, like I'll do it eventually, like I'll work out and everything, and I'm always kind of like, oh, like I'll put it on the back of burner, like I'm like, oh yeah, I'll do it, and then like I'll forget about it, or I'm like not making time for it or anything. But yeah, I just go in the mornings. Like I just work out like an hour, 30 minutes sometimes before work. So I'll go drive an hour to work. There's a gym right next to my job, so I'll just work out, and then I shower, and then I'll just go to work. So I'm always like I'm thinking about it because like the lifestyle of a gamer or like a person it's like it's not necessarily like the best as far as like you're always sitting down like playing games or like my job is literally sitting down in a desk all day. So
Yeah.
I'm sitting down. What YouTube time is sitting down at the computer. The time that I'm playing is literally sitting down on the computer, and my job is literally sitting down on the computer. So like, we're talking about like what 15 hours a day of sitting down. That's horrible for like your posture. Like I'm like on the older side now, and I'm starting to feel like pain on my back, and I'm like I hate that. I'm like this is because I'm not being active. Like that's really just it. I'm not getting enough use on my muscles, and I'm sitting. I feel like crap. I never been I never sat good. Like I'm always sitting badly. So
Yeah.
so yeah, I see that. I always like whenever people are like, yeah, I'm getting in shape or I'm working out. I'm like, yeah, that's awesome. I'm happy to hear that. It's always cool, especially for cosplay stuff. I knew you cosplay, but I didn't know how much you cosplay. You like to go to conventions as well?
Um, it's kind of like tricky because I do like conventions, but I only really like the part that's like cosplay related and buying like merch. So basically, when I like when I go to Anime Expo, I like to host the Megaten meetup, and I
Yeah.
like to cosplay and then buy some Atlas stuff. I basically don't really do anything else.
Mm-hmm.
There's been other like conventions that I'll go to that I actually want to see the other stuff, like WonderCon or Comic Con.
Mm-hmm.
But for the most part, like conventions, like for conventions, I just like the cosplay part. I do like just putting together an outfit, and I don't do a whole lot of cosplay, but I
Yeah.
do like to make at least one new thing a week or something.
Oh, right on. That's pretty cool. I like cosplaying, but also like I'm the kind of person that I wanna be in shape. I wanna be like in a good spot for the cosplays and everything. But I also like I gain and lose weight really easily. Like to me like it's not hard to me to lose weight, but it's also not hard for me to gain weight. Like if I like let's say like I work out for a whole year and I'm a pretty good spot. I'm like where I'm supposed to be. Like if I work out for if I could increase my workouts and change my diet a little bit, I can like start developing more muscle and everything. And then like sometimes like through the pandemic, I just fell back and I was like, oh, I don't want to go out too much, and like I don't like working out at home. So like I easily like within like 3 or 4 months I started gaining weight. I was like, man, I need to work out again. So I started working out and lost weight again. And like there's a good spot where like gaining weight is good for you, but there's also a spot where gaining weight is not good for you. So kind of have to find that middle balance between that. Like you were talking about like the muscles and everything. That's the kind of stuff that I should probably do more research on because it's an interesting topic. It's always not as common sensey as a lot of people make it out to be. Like oh, you gotta eat this stuff, and like that's how you gain muscle and everything. Sometimes it's not as easy as just doing that. I think.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, I mean, it's to me, it gets more common sense the more you do it. It's kind of like learning how to draw or something. Once you're like familiar with how it's done, then it's common sense. You know what I mean?
Right.
For me, it was like as soon as you learn like how to eat well, then the working out part comes easy, and then because both of them work together, but the eating well part's way more important. Like making sure you're grabbing all the veggies, making sure you're eating enough like macronutrients. It's like it just seems like a lot, but it's not. Like
Right.
and I don't know, like I consider it part of my like list of hobbies. I really like working out. Luckily I can do drumming, and that counts as some cardio for me. I use heavy sticks when I drum, so I can get nice it's called vascularity when you get the veins on your forearms.
Mm.
I do that. I'm like super into fitness, but I'm not like super buff right now. I'm kind of working on it. takes about a year to get where I
Right
want to be.
on, right on. No, that's awesome, dude. I really do appreciate that a lot. Like I said earlier, like when I see
Yeah,
people, like hear people, like getting back into fitness or like working out, I'm like, that's always awesome. Like you can always do better. Like, and working out is also like very relaxing. Like, at first I was like, I think like the first like 2 weeks the very first time that I started working out, I was like, man, I hate working out. But then like I love it because it's a way to like get your stress down, and it's just so relaxing. I don't know. I find it really relaxing, especially like when I wake up in the mornings and I'm a little like tired or like I'm not feeling like in the mood to work and everything. I go work out for 30 minutes to an hour, and I'm like I'm done, and I'm like I'm feeling ready for my day, and like I'm ready to get started and everything. I used to work at night, like right before going to sleep, and that's also the same thing. Like I'm tired from the day and everything like that. Work out, take a shower, and I feel like I'm ready to go. I'm ready to go to sleep. It's also really good for sleeping too. Like if you do it right before going to sleep, your
yeah,
muscles are just like warm and relaxed, and it's just so nice.
yeah.
Alrighty, so we did quite a bit of questions for you from Twitter. I'm sorry, pertaining to ask you. So I'm gonna go ahead and shoot those questions over to you, and we can wrap this up. So let me see if I can pull up the. Gosh, just so many. So many notifications. Sometimes it's hard to like go to them because I lose track of where I get things. I'm like, oh god dang it, because I get tagged on some stuff, and then like
Yeah.
I lose like track of like where things are. I'm like, oh man, like people are commenting on this one post and I don't even know what that post is about, or like because I don't have all the time to like
Yeah.
go on. I think you can relate to that. Like people is just like tagging and stuff, or like they'll like, but they post, you commented one thing and there's like a whole thread going on about it.
Yep.
Yeah. Alrighty. So Divine Spectre asks, if you were in charge of Megaten's franchise future, what are some things you will do? What would you add, change, or remove?
I would remove Doi as the demon design / character designer.
Whoa! Shots fired. No, I think that's a pretty common consensus as far as his art.
I mean, he's a good artist.
Mhm.
My problem is I just don't. I just think that it's kind of it's kind of it's there's not a way to put it that doesn't sound really insulting, but it's just not that iconic. Like
I'll help you here. It's too anime. It's like it's the poppy anime that you see in a lot of like the popular anime girl style. I don't know. Like I think I see what you're saying. The appeal. I don't see the appeal of it for a Megaten game. I can see it for me like a Persona game or maybe it's another series.
yeah, if he got his own thing that wasn't
Yeah.
like mainline, I would be fine with it.
Yeah. Yeah.
But
Yeah.
because like mainline, I feel like it has to have a certain feel to it,
Hmm.
and it just his art some of his designs are like good. Like for instance, his Finn McCool, his Mephisto are both really good
Yeah.
designs in my opinion.
I
But
like.
then,
I also like Nua's design. I think he did a good job with that one.
yeah, Nua's pretty good. Hydra's really good. I really like that.
Hmm.
Um, I just feel like I just feel like with him it's kind of like either he's not getting the opportunity to kind of shine, but also like even with that some of his work is kind of just whatever to me. I think that I would probably put more focus into quality of games because when they do their, like for instance, HD remaster, I think is a really terrible remaster. Um,
Yeah.
um, I think that it's just like focusing on the quality.
Yeah.
Like for me, the art and the lore is like what makes the games good. Like the gameplay is also good, but those are the things I like about it. And I would just make sure that kind of stuff becomes more important because like SMT4 is a good game, but I think that in terms of the story, it's worse than any of the other mainline games. I know that's kind of like a thing for Like it's kind of like a thing that people generally say for people say that that's like an old person thing, or like a people who like the old stuff. And
Understandable.
yeah, that's kind of how I feel. Like
Mm-hmm.
I think that kind of shifting the focus a bit.
Mm-hmm.
Same thing with Persona. I would just focus more on like the quality of the story, because Persona 5 has really great gameplay,
Yeah.
but the story to me is really whatever, and the characters are kind of forgettable.
You know what? I have the exact same opinion on Persona 5. I on hindsight, Persona 5 uh, looks really good. I think like it's the appeal of it. I can see the appeal of it, but also like as an older person, the characters just don't click with me. Like no, like I think the only characters that really clicked to me were like the older characters, but like the main protagonist body and everything, I find it really hard to like get connected with. I don't know if it's like the age. I'm showing my age there, or maybe it's just the type of character writing that they did for this game. But it just really didn't mesh with me on that end.
But then here's the thing,
So
though, like
yeah,
you play Persona 3, the cast feels like I think the cast in Persona 3 is like the best writing
yeah,
for like
yeah.
newer games, because those characters feel like more like real people, even though
Mhm.
like for instance, even though Yukari is really annoying, I feel like I feel like I feel like when you learn more about her story, it's
Yeah.
not like you hate.
Yeah,
Um,
and even like what the people that have a lot of issues with the answer, as like a follow up piece for Persona 3, you also gotta think these are teenagers like that lost someone. You know, like that they'll experience like this sense of loss and everything. And although I personally don't really like the answer too much as like a follow up piece, my thoughts are just they should have just not had the answer. I do think that their writing was appropriate for it because of the kind of characters they developed in the first game, and this is
yeah,
just kind of like a build up from that. But again, people don't want to see that because it kind of it humanizes the characters in a sense that people make it makes them uncomfortable. That's how I feel when you have certain emotions in a game that makes you uncomfortable, and it's not like a even like a good uncomfortable. It's kind of like, oh man, like this character's acting kind of whack. Yeah, like but if you were in this kind of situation, you would probably be in the same shoes or in a similar situation. You probably act the same way. So I really do like the writing on the characters on Persona 3. Persona
yeah,
4 for me is like too happy go lucky. I don't know if that makes sense. Like sometimes I'm like, man, this game is like the tone is. I love the tone because it's so weird. They're like chilling and happy, like the murder happened like 2 days ago. But over here going in a bitch trip, and I'm like,
yeah.
I don't know how that makes any sense thematically speaking, because it really shifts tones so fast that it's really hard. Like how are the characters gonna sit down and like somebody just murdered the teacher like last week and they're going on a school trip. Like it's like in like a sense like I'm like really like trying to like understand the tone shift there. But the tone shift is like it's too many. Like and I like Persona 4, I really do. But tonally and thematically, it's a mess. It's a real mess on like what's going on there. So but yeah, I agree with you. I feel like, going back to the artist and everything, if you were to choose a different artist, not Kaneko, because I think you, from what you were researching there, I think Kaneko is doing as much work with Megaten as he used to. Who would you have as an artist for Megaten?
See, that's tough to say because I'm not super knowledgeable about like other artists that much. Because like I feel like a lot of like of the best franchises tend to have an artist that's kind of like what makes it stand out. You got like Yoshitaka Amano for like Final Fantasy, or even I forgot his name, but the Kingdom Hearts artist Nomura.
Nomura, yeah, yeah.
Fantasy now he's pretty
Mhm.
iconic. Then you have like what's his name, Akira something something for Dragon Quest.
Toriyama, yeah.
Yeah, Toriyama. Like yeah, there's like these people who become super important and super like in sync with the series.
Hmm.
To like try to find another person who's like that for Megaten is kind of tough.
Yeah, yeah.
I think that it's like that's just the thing, is that they for Megaten to continue going the way it does, you have to find someone who's thinks like Kaneko.
Who matches? I feel like I think I see what you're saying because I really do agree with that. They have to find a artist that thematically, like in like a tone perspective too, it really matches with what Megaten is about. And I see what all people have issues with Doi, especially with Strange Journey, because it is the art is so jarring. You know, just having Kaneko's style and Doi style in the same game. It really like it almost like doesn't make sense. Like in like I said, like you see like the characters that they added and the stuff that they added in the game, and you're like, yeah, this doesn't really match well with what a Strange Journey is, just from like an art perspective. Not even talking about storylines or anything like that. It's really just from even that point, it's really jarring, and it's kind of almost bizarre that they did it that way. But I don't know the behind scenes of what happened with that, so I can't really speak for sure. But I do think that even from somebody in my perspective, I see that I'm like, yeah, that's really weird. Like I think to a lot of people, the viewers, maybe like let's see, like imagine having Persona Sojima and then having another person just randomly do the art for the next, like maybe like the guy that does the like some other artist that just do the art for Persona 5 Royal, you know, like Persona 5 and then Persona 5 Royal is made by another artist. It will be extremely jarring. Like I think people will even complain about that too.
The funny thing is,
yeah, go ahead.
Persona 5 Royal was done by different artists. That's like that was a video that I was working on before I started working on the Strange Journey thing.
Yeah, well,
yeah. The other team or the other people that's part of the Persona art design team, our team, they did all the art. So Jima basically didn't really do anything like, and for that game, it's actually almost entirely just the new
team now that they left to Studio Zero.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
But the difference is, even though they all have like I think they all have unique art. If you actually look at the different art, you can kind of tell a little bit.
Mm-hmm.
But, they still fit with Sojima's art style really well.
Yeah, and the official character designs are already kind of there. So did Sojima still did the character designs for Kasumi and the other guy, right? What was that?
Like, no, yeah, he did still do the character designs, but like the actual art that's in game, like all of the
right.
art and stuff, that's all done by the team. Then all they did was like emulate his style. They just like made sure it looked the same, and I think they did a really good job.
Yeah, they definitely did. But again, there's also like a difference between that and then having Doi introduce new character into Strange Journey that has like no style whatsoever too. Like he didn't even try to make it look Kaneko. He just like
it gets me too, because when you look at the SMT5 art, it's not bad. Like it's a lot better than for when he added that new character, because she doesn't look anything like, she doesn't even fit with the other characters that they redrew. Where they had like the I forgot what they called it. They just called it the Atlas design team. Did the new or redo those character arts and stuff. She didn't even look like she fits in with them. Like she looks so different.
Yeah, she just looks like I know it was a meme for a minute. Not a meme, but maybe like people were saying that he looked like a Persona character. But in hindsight, she kind of did. Like even like because I know I didn't play the game when it came out. Like I was telling you earlier, I played it like much later, so I wasn't like in like the moment when people reacted to Strange Journey Redux and everything. But seeing it in like that perspective, like she really did look pretty Persona. I remember seeing some comments about it. I was like, yeah, that does sound pretty different, and it really does. It's very different. But moving into the other question, because we really dwelled a lot into that one question. Unless you have anything else that you want to change of the Megaten franchise future.
I think that I would also make I would also have like the people who do mainline the like Kenichi Tsuchiya and Ryota Kazuka and stuff. I would have them do more. And I would also have them experiment more with other games, because we don't get spin-offs anymore. We don't get like the Devil Survivor. We don't get that kind of like weird idea anymore. Which I think I miss those more than I miss more mainline titles. I liked seeing like a random new game with a new artist and like just completely new style, and then seeing what it was like. We don't get that anymore, and I kind of want more of that. It seems like they're more interested in using things that people are already familiar with.
Yeah.
Imagine if they did like a Persona Q, but it wasn't even like it wasn't really any of those characters. It's just a new cast, but the same like but in a new
Style.
game.
Yeah,
a new style, but it was like Persona Q, or even like an arena game, but it wasn't like Persona characters. Maybe it was like demons or something. I don't know. It'd be kind of interesting.
Yeah, definitely. I always felt like that too. Like there was one. I remember I was doing I did a video a long time ago for the Persona anime. Was a Persona. What is that called again? That
Trinity
Persona
Soul?
anime, Trinity Soul. Yeah. And when I was watching it, because I made a video on the Spanish channel about it, and I was thinking about it, I was like, man, that anime could have been a cool game, but also like it really borrowed so much from the other games that I was like, I don't know how that will work, but the entire time I was like, that would have been a cool game. Like even if it wasn't like a traditional RPG, like some other type of RPG, like a spin-off game or something. It's that kind of stuff, and I do miss the wacky side of Atlas that did a lot of spin-offs, because there was a time between the PlayStation 2 and the DS where they did a bunch of spin-offs with random stuff. Like it was just pretty interesting to see them. In fact, the Devil Survivor games are super interesting from like the art standpoint, which I love that artist, to like the way that the gameplay is being a tactical RPG. There's a lot of things that you see about that game and you're like, yeah, this is like Atlas, a peak Atlas, I think. I don't know, some people may disagree with me, but I really do think that those kind of games really showed like a form of creativity, freedom of creativity that it doesn't really seem nowadays. Not saying that they don't have freedom to do whatever, because I don't know what's going on at Atlas, but it does reflect differently, right? So
yeah,
I don't know. I see where you're coming from there. I would like to see some crazy spin-offs. But so my own question, and I think I saw it earlier here. If you were to have a spin-off, revive a spin-off series, or just have a brand new spin-off for Megaten, what will it be?
See, I would just want a new one. I think reviving them is kind of a mistake. I feel like they've already like there's like this thing with like entertainment where they say leave them wanting more, and I think that's the best way to do it. To when something is done, it should just stay done, even if people want more. That's a good sign, because once you start actually trying to add more that wasn't supposed to be there, then it becomes kind of weird.
Star Wars.
Star Wars. Yeah, like Star Wars.
Yeah,
like
right.
Star Wars would have been super good if it was just the first three movies, and not the first three. I mean, like 4, 5, and
4, 5, and 6. Yeah.
But like, if they had just that, and they just had a bunch of games and stuff that like let you play in that world and experimented with it, that would be good. But they kept going, and it became bad, and now it's like not something I would want to watch anymore.
Yeah. Yeah, totally. I totally understand where you're coming from. So, if you were to do a brand new spin-off series, grabbing from other things, kind of what will it be?
So I would have said Musou, but Strikers already kind of did that. I want them to kind of like either do like a bullet hell, or like a hack and slash, or even just like another like a platformer, not a collectathon kind of platformer, but more like a 2D side scroller, not like Synchronicity Prologue, but more like stuff you'd see in the NES era.
More like I was thinking more like the Vanillaware games.
Yeah, or Vanillaware game. Oh my god, dude! Okay, you just kind of like triggered something, dude. Yeah. Imagine if the artist from Vanillaware was like the lead artist for Megaten. I just want to see what that would look like.
Oh, dude, that would be pretty cool. I would like to see something that sets out in a different time period. Because what happens right now is that we have a lot of modern style RPGs, with Persona and the Megaten games, and there's a lot of futuristic stuff. And then we have the Raito games, which is like in the 1920s. But we're like one in like ancient times in Japan or something like that. Kind of with that art style, that would be pretty cool. 2D side scroller, I'll buy that. That's like a very different think outside of the box kind of thing.
Yeah, come on, nowhere. Oh, if they could literally just make it like a visual novel, like 13, like Aegis Rim, like just
Yeah.
and kind of mix other elements to it. I would buy that so hard.
There you go. We have the next big spin-off right here.
Yeah,
Honestly, I will be down for that, especially with the relationship that we have with that they have with Bonellaware. I'm pretty sure
yeah,
they could make something work. I want them to try to give it another try to the dungeon crawler games, not like they did with the Persona
Dragon,
Q games and the what was that other game? What's the big series that they have that they make by the same people?
Etrian Odyssey.
Etrian Odyssey. A little bit different. I think that Etrian Odyssey is an interesting concept, but always felt like they were kind of afraid to explore more. After
Yeah,
the first game, I always felt like they kind of they stay stagnant. Like the gameplay only revolve around specific things that they did, but it doesn't really evolve. And I think if they did something like a Megaten, other dungeon crawler type of game with like other mechanics and everything, could be something pretty interesting. I don't know. Megaten overall has like so many possibilities because of the way that they already established the franchise that anything really is possible. We just have to work on it hard enough to like make it make sense. As long as you make it make sense, I think it's good.
because they can
Yeah.
even do something like a first-person shooter, and it would be interesting just to like just like a military, like almost like a zombie mode of things where it's you're trying to escape Tokyo, and you're like a military officer, and maybe you can summon demons, maybe you can't, and it's just like damn,
Yeah, kind of like a Doom.
yeah, like a Doom, but like Megaten. I think that
A
would be
Megaten Doom. Yeah, yeah. You fight different demons and everything. Oh, maybe you know what? I like Bloodborne. I've actually been playing it lately. Bloodborne would be cool idea, like a almost like a hack and slash type shooter. Because in Bloodborne you do have a gun and you do have your sword, and you have like both of the stuff, and you're fighting like demons and a bunch of different weird looking creatures and everything.
yeah.
I would like a Soul style Megaten game. That would be like that's my one of my dream games. I think a Soul style Megaten game. Uh, ever since I saw Persona, no, Shin Megami Tensei 4 being the Dark Souls of Persona, my first thought was, I want a Megaten Dark Souls game. That would be so cool.
Yeah,
Yeah, I will be open to that. So, actually gonna move on to the next question here that we got from Persona Forever. In terms of Megaten content, which is your favorite SMT and Persona spin-off game?
let's see. Well, my favorite thing is Strange Journey, but outside of that, it's like I really like Persona 4 Dancing. I like Persona 4 Arena. Um, Digital Devil Saga is up there as well. And yeah, I mean, if it could be like, does it just have to be spin-offs, or could it be
It could
anything?
just be anything, really. I think it could be anything.
Well, then, like my easy top three is Strange Journey, Nocturne, Persona 1. That's like those are like my three favorites for sure.
Nice, nice. I think to me, the only thing that is stopping me from enjoying Persona 1 and 2 as much as I do with the story is the gameplay. And I know I say that sometimes, but I really do mean that. Like, the gameplay just, it kind of bumps me out. Every time that I'm kind of like, oh man, I'm really feeling like playing some Persona 2 right now, because I really do enjoy the story, and I always wanted to like try to get to play more, and I want to play Persona 1 and do the Ice Queen storyline and everything, and I never had a chance to do it, so I'm always like, okay, I'm gonna get it, I'm gonna play it, and then I'll get to the gameplay, I'm like it's just out of all the Megaten games, my least favorite gameplay is Persona 1 and 2. Just the style of it, just I don't even know, because you look at something like Shin Megami Tensei 1, for example, and the gameplay is still pretty Megaten. Like it's still like pretty straightforward turn-based RPG type. But then you look at Persona 1, and I'm like, what went as far as like the development aspect? Like, what made them do it like that?
Yeah, I mean,
I always wondered, if you ever make a video on that, I'll be happy to watch that, because I'm really curious to see like what the thought process was to change the gameplay, because it's still turn based, obviously, but the style and then the recruiting type that they did with all this like everybody talks and do something to influence the D1 to recruiting. I don't know. There's a lot of different stuff that I find the ideas were interesting. I'm not saying that it's bad. I'm just thinking that the ideas didn't accomplish. Maybe it's, the PlayStation 1 wasn't strong enough for what they were trying to do, or like maybe the ideas didn't come to full fruition as far as like what they were trying to accomplish. Because again, the gameplay just doesn't. It's not my cup of tea. But I do think that they were going for something. Like they were trying to do something specific. I just don't know what.
Yeah.
All right. So the other question that we have from Persona Forever is pertaining to the Megaten Wiki, which is further misinformation. If it is impossible to fix, would you make another one?
No. Like, I know that it sounds like it makes sense for like, oh yeah, Larrue can make a thing, but it's pretty labor intensive. I made one page on the Megaten wiki, and it took me like 3 hours, and that was just one page.
Yeah,
so,
yeah.
Like the idea of doing a whole wiki, I don't know if I could do that.
I think it will have to. It require like a group of people to be willing to put the collective effort into making it work.
Making it
and then it's like how much of it is going to overlap with the other wiki, and I don't know. I think the logistics of even having a website to like run a website, because a lot of people I don't think they understand that it goes a lot of time and work into working a website. It's the same thing with like having another YouTube channel or another content creation tool. Like it goes time and effort goes into it, and it's a little bit sometimes more than what you need. Like especially with the wiki, like new information gets released every day. You may find an interview from like 1995 about a game in particular. So like it's always updating, it's always changing, and it's kind of hard sometimes to pinpoint exactly like the information and everything. So I understand why you wouldn't want to try to do it.
Yeah, because if I did it, I wouldn't make YouTube videos for a very long time, because I would want it to be super accurate, super like. One of the big things about the wiki that I hate is that they never cite any sources. They don't tell you where any information comes from, and a lot of times their information is wrong.
Dude, that's what I was telling somebody the other day. Something came up in the obviously on Twitter, like always. They were arguing about Detective Naoto, the manga, which there were. I think the wiki cites that they said that is not canon. And I'm like, well, where do you get that from? Like, what's the source? Like, is it an interview that says that it's not canon? Is there an article on Famitsu that says that it's not canon? Did the artist say that it's not canon? Like, what piece of media is saying that it's not canon? Because I think it's an interesting subject, because I think in canon, like in general, Atlas is really hands-off when it comes to canon, because they don't want to be constricted by it. And I think a lot of people think of it as a bad way, but the more you try to keep a canon going, the harder it is for you to mess around with it, because then people are going to be like, oh, you're retconning this, you're retconning that, you have to go back, you have to fix this, you have to fix that, and it gets really complicated. But because because they're so hands off about it, technically everything can be canon, and with all these timelines and everything, anything is possible. And I think it's a better approach sometimes, that people focus so much on what's canon. Sometimes like it kind of like to a frustrating degree about it. I don't know how you feel about it, but to me, like I hear it about it, I'm like, why are you so worried about it? I think like the one that kind of really annoyed me was whenever Persona 5 Rojo and Persona 5 Strikers. That was a big, like, almost like debate. Like people are like, oh, Persona 5 Rojo is not canon. I'm like, why will it not be canon? Did you think that Atlas just threw out millions into like making Persona 5 Rojo and then not make it canon?
I don't know. I've always disliked canon talk because I've always thought it was kind of dumb. For me, the games are mostly not connected because it doesn't make any sense if they are all connected. Like, you have to ignore a lot of information to make it make sense.
Yeah, exactly.
And something like Detective Naoto, I remember I have an interview where Sojima and Hashino say that it's canon. And like if that matters to you, then that's what they say. Like the actual creators of the modern Persona games say that it is. But then there's someone else who worked on the Arena games who say that it's not true.
Yeah.
So it's like, oh, if you really care, you're gonna have to decide which creator you care about more. And then when you look at stuff like Megaten in general, it's better to just enjoy them like as they are, in my opinion. So to me, it's better to just play Nocturne and not think about, oh, is it connected to anything else? Because I can tell you,
exactly.
I've read every single Nocturne interview, and it's not connected to anything.
Right.
The only thing,
or like the whole thing about like the quote True Demon ending, and like every single time that I hear that people are like, oh, I'm going for a true ending, I'm like, there's no such thing, my man. There's a lot of endings, and they're all endings that are technically canon because they're in the game, but there's no true ending. So like I always like it's really hard to explain that to like newcomers because they look up things on like the Wikipedia or like on Twitter, and people are just telling them like misinformation and everything, and then I go on like, I don't really want to correct them, but also like I kind of see it. I'm like, oh no, it's not true or something. And then somebody like, well, on the wiki it says that. I'm like, no, do not quote the wiki to me.
Yeah.
It's every time that I start quoting the wiki, I'm like, I'm gonna mute this thread and I'm not gonna reply back. I'm done. It's just frustrating. I also don't like the canon talk because I think another thing that I think people confuse canon with continuity.
Mm-hmm.
Like there's a difference between continuity and canon. Everything in Megaten is canon because it's made by the same people. It's made by Atlas. But what is continuous to each other, what continues from then on, that's always up for debate. That's always like the fun part, like the references on Shin Megami Tensei Eve in Persona 1 and 2. You know, like whenever you hear the Monica armor in Shin Megami Tensei 4. That's cool shit. Like you see that and you're like, oh, that's cool. I love that Easter egg. Or like that's a cool piece to see. And I always like trying to see like the theories as far as like what's continuous, where it comes from, or whatever. But like actually trying to put a canon to it or like a continuity or anything, other than for fun, I don't really see it as a fun subject of talking, because people are like arguing about it. And I'm like, it's a fun conversation. Don't make it not fun, you know. Like it's just a fun conversation. There's no right or wrong, unless like the artists actually or like the creators are saying, you know, this is a black and white scenario. For the most part, it's just pretty hands off, I think.
Well, I mean that specific example does have a specific answer. Literally, they say that that's just a fun Easter egg.
Yeah. That's why I use Easter egg, because that's what I had heard myself. But again, also people are always like to like make their own head canons as far as like, oh, this, you know, this other references and all this other stuff. It makes it, you know, and that's like, you know, to me it always is an Easter egg. But it's also fun to speculate. You know, it's like, I feel like there's a fun part about speculating. But there's also not the fun part when people are like arguing on Twitter, like, "Oh, you're a dumbass because you don't believe that this game is canon or whatever." Like that's useless talk. It's not going anywhere. But speaking of useless stuff that is infuriating, what bit of Megaten related in misinformation infuriates you the most?
Well, Canon talk. I really don't like people. I don't like you were saying that it's fun conversation. The problem to me is that people, like, you can have your fan theories and you could kind of draw your own conclusions, and that's fine. Mm-hmm. But I think if there's information that completely is like proves whatever you're saying is wrong, then you just kind of accept that. Like one of the things that I remember the most is my Hajiri video. Like I went out of my way to prove that it's wrong. Like it's like Hajiri and Aleph are two completely different characters.
Right. I never believed that they were the same character either. Other than looking remotely alike, because they don't even look alike. It's just have the same hairstyle.
Yeah, which like there's a couple of characters that have the same hairstyle for Kaneko. Like he does. Like I mean, I think that's like every artist has like things that they repeat a lot. Kaneko
Yeah.
repeats like hairstyles, and a lot of his faces look almost exactly the same.
I mean, let's be real here. That's a syndrome that a lot of anime artists have.
Yeah,
You look at their faces; they look very similar. That's not just Kaneko. I feel like
yeah,
even Doi has the same thing. Most of his
yeah,
females look about the same. Like look at the females' faces; they'll look about the same.
exactly.
Yeah.
But like for me, like I made that video, like, and it's like there's no debating it. Like I translated the what they actually say, because the fan translation for SMT2, they actually changed a lot of stuff. Like it's not like they change stuff to make it fit. They just add new dialogue that's not there, and it's not what they're saying. So like for instance, it'll be like Yahweh talking, and when he's talking about how you're cursed or whatever. But then he, like in the fan translation, the way he talks, it's like the curse is completely different. It's just a new thing that
Yeah.
and that's fine. Like it's not like if that's his choice as a translator to
Mhm.
change it that way. But I like translated it. I bought every single Shin Megami Tensei 2 book, and I looked through every interview, and then I went through every single Nocturne interview, and there was no mention of this relationship, and the curses are completely different. But if you look at this, what they say they are in game,
Yeah. Yeah.
I made that video, and I got so many people saying, "Well, I still believe it anyways because I like it that way." Which I'm like, I mean,
Yeah, that's pretty infuriating, especially because you spend a whole time researching in order to prove them wrong. They're like, well, I'm still gonna believe my head canon or whatever.
yeah, and I don't mind headcanon. You could definitely like just
Mhm.
want something to be away. Like you can say, "Oh man, in my brain, Joker is Vincent and Catherine's son," and I'll be like, "Okay, that's fine. There's nothing in Catherine or Persona 5 that indicate you're wrong, so whatever." But once the actual artists or creators are like showing you that that's not true, then you should just accept what they say, because that's what they wanted, you know.
Yeah, yeah. No, I totally understand where you're coming from there.
So
To me, like, there's always like a fun aspect to like, oh, let's speculate about some stuff, but there's also like legitimate information that you can find about stuff. You're like, okay, like that's good. For example, like I think the one that a lot of people get like confused about is the character that shows up in Persona 3 Portable, looks like Vincent, who's being repeatedly said that it's not Vincent, but a lot of
yeah,
people are like, "Oh, it's Vincent from Catherine or whatever." And it's obviously an Easter egg. You know, they were trying to advertise Catherine because it was something they were going to work on. It's just an Easter egg. It's just a fun Easter egg. But you always have the people that have all these theories about it or whatever. And like I even talk about it as like an Easter egg in one of my videos, and people are like, "Oh, that's Catherine." I was like, that's just an Easter egg. You know, I don't take it too seriously. To me, it's just always for fun, unless somebody again like they're arguing or they're like getting upset about it. And then I'm like, you know, you don't have to take this so seriously. It's just a hobby. Like Megaten is just a hobby.
yeah, and it's just annoying because like to me, like I watched the podcast that Soejima and Hoshino are in, where they talk about Catherine, and they talk about that Easter egg, and they say they just did it for fun. That it's a guy that looks like Vincent, but it's not Vincent, and that it wouldn't even make sense because Vincent, like the 7 days that Vincent is in like in the game, he doesn't travel. So
Yeah, yeah,
and that character talks about his nightmares.
yeah,
There's no way for him to travel from America to Japan and back in one day. Like
right,
that
right.
flight is like 24 hour or like a 12-hour flight or whatever. So like it's like the more you think about it, the less sense it makes. So then what's the alternative? The alternative is that it really is just an Easter egg. So like when people kind of fight on that, it's just like why like that's not like fun.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. I totally agree with you. Yeah, there's a difference between like for fun thing and then there's like,
Yeah.
oh, I have to be right about something. I feel like a lot of people on Twitter, particularly, just want to be right about things sometimes, and I can catch myself sometimes. So I'm like, I feel like I'm right about this, but you know, like, sometimes you have to pick your battles. I just let it go. Sometimes I don't care.
I'm too much of an argue. I like to argue too much, so it's really hard for me.
Yeah, I am too, but I'm trying to cut back on that because I don't want to let like let that ruin the rest of my day. Because like sometimes like some people say some stuff, you're like, oh man, I really want to comment on that, and I do, and they're like arguing back and forth, and I was like, at some point I'm like, I don't feel like we need to continue this conversation anymore. It's not going anywhere. Because they're not getting your point, and you're not getting or they may not be right, but they're not understanding your position or what you're saying. So you can repeat the same thing for like the next 20 minutes, but it's not gonna go anywhere. So that's how I see it. If I don't see like it's gonna go anywhere, it's a conversation is basically over at that point. But the next question here from Persona, personal favorites. Persona, I don't know what it. I don't know what it is, but the the username is kind of tripping me. But kind of a new in the fandom. But anyway, here's my question: which spin-off in Persona did you enjoy the most? The Etrian Odyssey, fighting game, dancing game, or muscle game?
Dancing game. I really love rhythm games, and Persona 4 dancing. Not so much 5, just 4 and 3. They're really good. 3, like I remember when I played 3. And people were talking about how bad the remixes are, and I was like playing through it, and I'm like, no, all these remixes are pretty good. They're like catchy. There's a couple of bad ones, but I think in terms of like comparing it to Persona 4 or even 5, like most of the remixes in Persona 3 dancing I actually really like, and I like the fan service, the characters talking to each other.
Mm-hmm.
Like I know that for some people they're not gonna like it, but when you compare it to the fan service in like Q. I think that they do a much better job in the dancing games because the characters still act the way they do in the games.
Yeah.
But in like Persona Q, they're like they simplify.
Gosh, don't even remind me. That was my especially the first one, the Persona Q, the first one. They were like literally a caricature of the character. Like they picked one thing, not even one trait, just one thing. And that's literally their entire personality in the game. It's like, oh, Chia likes steak. Literally, she's steak girl. She's not a human being with emotions and feelings. She's just a girl that likes steak. And like every single person just had like, oh, Mitsuru is a dominatrix. She's only gonna make dominatrix jokes for the rest of the game. Like every single person just has like not even a character trait, just one thing. Yeah, and that really grinded me with the Q games. To me, the thing is, I don't actually like the Japanese rhythm games. I never been a fan of them. So they're my least favorite games. I love the music. I actually own all the music for the games and everything because I love the music, but I've never been a fan of the games. I don't know why. But the story is good. Persona 4 storyline, as outrageous as it is, it's still a pretty good story. Like it's not uncomfortable or anything. It's just kind of there. I'm not gonna say it's like the best storyline. It's not a Oscar deserving or anything, but it's an interesting, fun story. It's like Persona is never really like super to be taken super seriously, especially the spin-offs, and the dancing game is really just a for funsies kind of game, and I appreciated that. Although it did get dark at times, I was like, what the hell is going on here? But for a dancing game, I think it was fine. I personally just don't enjoy Japanese rhythm games. I don't know why. They first of all, like there are too many of them, and they all play a slightly different way. But for example, the Hatsume Miku games, where like the controllers are like everywhere. They just like they're flying everywhere. You have to look all over the screen and like click the things. I'm like, nah, these are not for me. My vision is not good for this. I'm just not good at them either. I think if it was better, I would probably enjoy them more. I'm not good at those games either. So
fair enough. Yeah. I mean, my main reason for liking the Persona 4 dancing over all the other spin-offs is literally just because, like, in terms of like the Persona like cast outside of 3, like 4 and 5, I never really like loved the cast that much. I just kind of thought like for 4 they're okay, but like after their story is done, they just don't exist really anymore. They just kind of do like their jokes and that's it.
Oh yeah,
and
yeah.
And then Persona 5 kind of does the same thing.
Absolutely, yeah.
but I really liked some of the side characters in Persona 4, and in particular, Nanako was a character I really liked because I thought she was written really well. Like she felt like an actual child. And when she just seeing her dance to the dumb song she always sang in the game, I was like, oh, look at her, she's so happy.
Yeah, so I appreciated that. I really do, because that's one of the biggest things that I want change for the next Persona game. Persona has an issue when it comes to character writing, because it's not that it's bad, and I want to make that clear for the listeners. What happens is they have over reliance on the social link to do the storyline. So they introduce a character in the story, and the story just kind of gets on pause until you do the story, the social link, and then it just kind of goes nowhere. Like that happens to every single character. Some characters get more development than others because of story, but that's a plot point element, and that's not a character development element. I feel like that's something that I don't think they have been able to pinpoint in the right direction. Maybe the new writing team with the new people working on the Persona games can do a better job about it. I frankly don't know. I thought Maruki was really well written as a character, but I don't know. That's just my thoughts on that. I feel like they could do better on the character writing. I don't know. I feel like it's too late to change the social links. As far as like removing them, because I will be okay if they remove the social links, but I also like they will have to come up with something to replace that with, because I think a lot of people do enjoy that additional social link aspect. But like I said, I feel like they introduce the character, it just kind of takes a backseat. Like, oh, the character is there, but like they're gonna act the same way they did. Well, my other problem is when you've reached the finish at the end of the story, like let's say you finished Anne's story in Persona 5, and then I don't care whether you date her or not, but you then the story continues, and then she acts like she's at the beginning of the game, but like you already just finished the socialing, and you have like this wonderful bonding interaction with her. But now you're just a stranger that she's just kind of meeting again, not even the interaction with her, but interaction with everybody, and the way that she acts and everything. It's like we just went to this character transition in the social link, and in the story is that character development is gone.
Yeah, exactly. I think it's a pretty big flaw in the way that it's currently structured. They need to like figure out a better way to balance it. But yeah, that's
that's kind of like my only thing that I have an issue as far as like character writing in the games. I really wish that they can come up with a cool way to do it, but it's also very tricky, like I said before, because of the way that the social links are established. They will have to completely restructure the way that works. I think they did a pretty good job in the Yakuza series. They did Yakuza Like a Dragon, where they have social links. They call them drinking links, funnily enough, because you go drink at a bar and have fun with them. But they also have a story that is character driven. So the entire time, the characters are having their development, and then the downtime when you're doing the drinking links, it expands on that. But the character development doesn't take a break from that. It's that the characters are still doing stuff and everything, and you get to know them more personally, but the story it's a different storyline altogether. It's not tied into the main story, but they even reference like things that they did previously in the story, like even you might have done that earlier, but they talk about it and like when we did that, and they laugh about it or something like that. So I really like the way that they approach the drinking links, because it's much more relaxed, and it's not as reliant on like the rest of the story. It's still a really character driven story. Main protagonist and entire cast just has really good chemistry with each other. I haven't played a game with such good chemistry with other characters in a long time. Because Persona 3 is interesting because they don't have any chemistry with any of them. Because they're not supposed to. They're not supposed to be friends. They're supposed to be almost like co-workers. And then Persona 4, the Persona 4 cast does have some pretty good chemistry. But Persona 5, for some reason, they are supposed to be friends, but the chemistry just isn't there for me. I don't really see the chemistry working really well. Especially some of the other some characters. I'm kind of like, yeah. In reality, they wouldn't really be friends with each other. Like I know they're supposed to be this group of misfits that kind of come together, but some of them really just don't really feel like they fit with each other too well. Um, but yeah, I think I went on a tangent there for some. I don't know. I don't know where I was going with that anymore. Uh, Hold on. Well, which of these spin-offs in Persona would you prefer to happen in SMT? I guess in the spin-offs, the Etrian Odyssey, fighting game, dancing, Muso. Would you like to see any of these styles on onto Megaten?
Yeah, any of the styles, but I because I like rhythm games and especially I think mainline has even better music than Persona.
Hmm.
Like especially the older ones.
Yeah.
Like I would like to see a dancing game with mainline. I think that the problem that they have is they think that everything has to have a story. I don't think so.
Yeah,
They can
yeah.
just have purpose like they did with 3 and 5 dancing, and that it actually worked out just fine. And you just get to see these dumb character interactions, and it actually was good. You know,
Yeah,
do
yeah.
the same thing with mainline or any of the other branches that have good music, or just make it a whole series, like a whole franchise thing where
Hmm.
you can unlock different songs. I think that the only other thing that I'd want just as much as that would be maybe like a fighting game, because I do like fighting games.
Yeah,
Persona
yeah.
Zero was really well done. I wouldn't mind
I
seeing.
will be down into something like a Super Smash Bros. Megaten game. I think that
Mm-hmm.
would be pretty cool. I would like to see that. You know, like a brawler
Yeah,
bunch of characters put together. They just fight it off or something. And again, with that kind of stuff, you don't really need a story. It's just a fighter. You know, you just dump characters there, and and let them beat each other up or stuff. It's just kind of fun kind of thing.
yeah.
Yeah, definitely. So the next question, I'm not sure. Do you have a dog named Pascal?
No, I have a cat named Pascal,
Ah,
and
okay, so that's what it
I
is.
have 2 cats
So,
and a.
question from Paps is, how is Pascal doing, and what is your favorite? What is his favorite Megaton toy?
Well, his favorite is the Mothman plush that I have. He really likes the antenna, but it's because he thinks it's a toy that he can play with. He's doing good right now. He's like literally in my lap. He's laying. He's like sleeping. Um,
Nice, nice. Yeah, I have a cat too. It's the family cat. My sister they got it from my sister for like help her with her anxiety and stuff, and she's
mhm.
the chillest cat. She's almost like not even there sometimes. You know, like she doesn't approach anybody or do anything. She just sits in a corner and just stares at the wall for the entire of the day. I don't know. The cat's just really chill. He doesn't. She doesn't approach people or like even. I don't think she even likes people to like touch her or something. She's just kind of there.
Yeah,
Yeah.
Pascal is like he basically likes being around me as much as possible. So as even at like so he mostly just stays in my room, and he doesn't even like to walk around the house. He just likes being in my room, and he'll wait for me. Like as soon as he hears me like come through the front door, he'll start meowing. He'll come down, and then he likes to sleep next to me when I'm sleeping. And
Nice.
as soon as my alarm goes off, he's like he'll like try to wake me up too. It's so funny. Like he's a, I have another cat who just literally doesn't do anything. He just like he
Just
kind of
likes
just
to chill.
yeah. And then I have a dog too, and he's cool, but he's like super high energy. Pascal's
Oh,
high
nice,
energy,
nice.
but he's like when he's tired, he kind of just does whatever. Like right now, he's literally sleeping on his back on my lap.
That's nice, isn't it? Yeah, I want a dog, but my apartment is so small that I really need to find another place before I can get a dog. Because
Yeah,
I don't want to restrict the dog from like running or like jumping or something. And it's just a place that I got. It's pretty small and it's just not good for a dog right now. So when I get one, I'll definitely get a bigger place for the dog there.
yeah.
Maybe I'll name him Pascal. I don't know. Uh, so the next question here is is it about Megaten that you like the most?
For me, it's like, yeah, it's the art and the music mostly, but also I really like this. So the thing that I liked about it, before, is that with like in the Conoco era, there was a really strong attention to detail with the lore, the mythology, the art. The art was always interesting because you could look at a lot of the stuff that
Yeah.
Cosplay would draw, and then you would learn something new,
Mm-hmm.
and it's not always just like a straight up 1-to-1 of what they're supposed to look like.
Yeah.
So like I just really liked that. Like when I'm like, as I'm researching for the Strange Journey video, I'm learning so much about Strange Journey and how much attention to detail there is. There was a lot of thought that went into it. Same thing with
Yeah.
Nocturne. Nocturne was another one where the more I read about it, the more I was like, wow, they really did try to do something unique with this. And whether or not you like it is one thing, but I just really liked the effort.
Yeah.
And
Yeah.
hopefully SMT5 has high effort too, but I don't know. We'll see.
Totally understandable. For me, I think the one game that I really just like with art, but also like all the stuff around it, is the Double Digital Saga games.
Mm-hmm.
Because there's like, even if you look at the logo on like the background on the cover of the game, you look like there's like so many like references to Hinduism and it's just like, even just the cover alone, not about like the music that also has like so much like inspiration from that, all the art and everything. It's just everything about it. It's like so well made, like even just like in that artistic value, not even like the actual game and what it does and everything. It really screams of like how much research Kaneko had to do for the games before even like making the art for it and everything. There's a lot that goes into to making the game possible, and
Yeah.
I always appreciate that. That's like a level of appreciation. Like, although I'm not a fan of Kaneko's art style, in like a human, I don't like the humans that he does. Like like I said, with the faces and everything, but
Mm-hmm.
I really appreciate the artistic value that he adds to the game, because there's something when you look at a Shin Megami Tensei game, the amount of like you were saying, the detail and like the references that it does to like the subject that it's going for, it's always really well researched, and it feels like so interesting and like what it goes for and everything. And then he does some other stuff that I just find just particularly awesome. So the last question for the night for you is a question that has been popping on a lot of people's radar recently. It's the which Persona game deserves a remake?
Um, I mean, I don't really like remakes that much, so for me, it's like none of them. Like, if anything, I would just
Yeah,
prefer
yeah.
them to be ported.
Mm-hmm.
Like, just port them over so we can get the games like available on more consoles
Uh,
or more modern places. I don't really want a remake of anything. I actually like the games for like how they exist. And the problem with remakes for me is that a lot of times they change so much that it's not even the same game anymore. Like, a good example would be like the Resident Evil games. They're so different. Like the remakes for 1 and 2 and Nemesis, they're like so different from the original gameplay that I like it. To me, it's not really the comparable.
right,
Like,
right, right.
you can like the original and not like the remake, or you can like the
Mm-hmm.
remake and not the original.
Right,
But
yeah. I see your point of view there. I think a better word for remakes is a reimagining, because it's never really a remake. It's always a reimagining of the work. And the problem is, sometimes they get a new team of people that work on these things. Sometimes it's a new art direction that goes into these things. Sometimes it's a completely different engine. Like everything like put together is just like immerse something that is different. I particularly enjoy some remakes, not all of them, because some of them they do lose what made the original game good. And I feel like it's always an issue that a lot of people worry about when they hear a remake, because for example, there's a lot of people that say, oh, Persona 3 needs a remake because of blanket reasons. And to me, I'm like, yeah, but that will also kind of lose a lot of what Persona 3 was about. Like, who knows what the next direction will be. Although there's a lot of cringy stuff that happens in Persona 3 that I like because it's cringy and it was in the early 2000s. So like that's gonna be gone, right? Because it's not the early 2000s anymore. So like a remake also has to take in consideration like the time period and everything. So now it's 2021. Like if we hear a remake of Persona 1, for example, 1995, 1996.
For what?
I'm sorry. What is the? Maybe I'm going way too. Is that 1999?
1996 is when you're talking about when it takes place. It takes place in 1996.
Yeah,
it came out here. Yeah.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. So like in that time period, they're like so like. How will that work as far as the remake? Will they modernize it in a sense that it's happening in 2021, or will that because that will be a completely different thing, right? Altogether, or like there's a lot of things that I think about sometimes when I think about like remakes and stuff. To me like I would like a good enhanced edition, right? But then you look at things like the HD remaster with Nocturne, you're kind of like, well, maybe not that. So I don't know. I always get nervous and stuff because there's a part of me, there's a positive part of me that I'm like, yeah, I want remakes and remasters and like I want all this stuff to, but I'm also like, but is it gonna be good? Is it gonna like really do justice to the original game? That's really always up to debate as far as what happens there, I think.
Yeah, and for me, it's like I don't like the reason why I'm not super into remakes. A good example of it is Strange Journey Redux. I don't think it's the same game at all as Strange Journey. It's the story is completely different. The art is different. The only thing that's the same is the setting and the music, and like the new music is pretty similar to the original, so it's not like that different, and it's not that much. But the rest of it is so different that it's not the same game. So when people say, "Oh, which version do you recommend?" I'm like, play both of them because they're completely different experiences. It's like playing Final Fantasy VII or Final Fantasy VII Remake. The game is so different from the original, and even the way they wrote the remake, they changed the story completely. It's completely story now.
Oh, 100%. Yeah. It's very different.
And to me, I don't see like there's sometimes where remakes make sense. Like maybe the original artist had a vision and they weren't able to do it, or someone has a vision of what it could have been or whatever. But at the same time, I would just rather have a new thing instead of a remake of something I've already experienced, because I'm just going to compare it to that original thing. And when I play games, I like to experience them and just only think about them. But like, for instance, with Redux, I had a hard time playing it and not comparing it to Strange Journey, because you have my favorite game of all time, and then I'm playing a game that removes all of the things that I loved about my favorite game, and I have to try to play it and enjoy it for what it is, and it's really hard because all I can do is compare it, and that makes it difficult to enjoy it, in my opinion.
I think I agree with that. I think that there's always gonna be like this, especially when you already have not even a nostalgia factor, but if like you already like the original property. It's always really difficult to look at something with a new, fresh pair of eyes, because you don't have the fresh experience. Maybe newcomers, new people that are just starting look at Redux and they're like, oh, it's almost the same game. Even if it's not really, because they don't have that like knowledge of like playing one and then the other one, or like I remember playing Persona 3, and then playing Persona 3 Fest, and then playing Persona 3 Portable. And like a lot of things changed, and it not always like a positive thing. There's always people arguing back and forth between Portable and Fest, which one's better or which one does things best or whatever. And that's kind of like, that's always never a fun conversation for anybody, because it's really like you're right or you're wrong, but there's no really like a right or wrong in this scenario. It's just a different piece of media, and I think to me, I would rather just have like a port of all the games so people can play them now. I know I was messing with King Narukami earlier because he keeps asking for Persona 4 Golden on the consoles, and personally I couldn't care less where any of them get like any other Persona games get ports or whatever. I already played them. I'm probably not gonna play them for a minute, but it's always nice to see new people play them. You know, like to me, like
Yeah,
that's what I see. Like,
exactly.
you know, like it's not for me particularly. I'm not gonna like. I'm probably gonna buy them for collections. I'm a hoarder. I own like 4 copies of Persona 4 Golden. You know, like so, so like I'm probably gonna buy another 2 copies. You know, like it's more of like for the new people, for the newcomers. You know, like I can see a port always being a good way to go. Maybe a remaster if they do a good job. But those are also tricky because they change the lighting, sometimes they change the music, sometimes they don't change enough to merit a remaster quote quote thing. So I don't know. It's also that's even like debatable. You know, like look at I'm gonna go back to Nocturne a little bit. With the way that they approach the using the other engine, you know, like the lighting really changed the way that you experience certain aspects of the game. I remember there's one part when you go to this prison in Nocturne,
Mm-hmm.
and in the original game it was dark as hell. Like it was just dark because you were switching between the two. You could switch between like how it looked. It was like the regular way of looking at the jail, and then like this inverted edition where you could see, and I was like,
Yeah.
it was a change, and it made it like it had like a really creepy feeling because it was an abandoned jail, and there were like demons on one dimension and not on the other, and everything. So it was like a creepy horror type of scenario in that dungeon. But the new remaster, because of the light changes, it was both of them looked almost identical, and the light was the same too. It was like it was really bright. So for that scene, it almost ruined the experience of like the creepy feeling that you get from going into an abandoned jail. You know, like that's like a creepy kind of thing. Like it's really dark, and you're like walking around, you know, this maze looking thing and everything. I don't know. To me, like it really did affect my thing on that. I was like, man, this could have been like much better. What like back when it was a little darker, because it really did change how I felt about that. But yeah, that's like a little example on that then there. But yeah, that's all the questions that I had there. I want to thank you so much for to dropping by and talking to me for some times here. I'm sure the listeners have a lot of fun listening to you to our rambles here and talking
Yep.
about the Megaten community and the games and everything pertaining to that. So I do appreciate you showing up. Make sure that you follow him everywhere. He is everywhere, including TikTok. I'm gonna try to get as many of those links as possible. I have to see what I can fit on that description box. So again, you have the YouTube channel, Twitter, Twitch, TikTok,
Yeah.
Facebook. Is that it?
Oh yeah. I mean, I don't really use the Facebook anymore. That's actually
Oh
kind
yeah,
of dead.
that's dead now. Okay, that's done now. So there's a Reddit, right? You're no longer doing the Reddit either.
I no, I sometimes post on Reddit, but I seldom do. I do run the R Atlas subreddit, and we have a Discord server for that. But aside from that, I don't really do much of anything. I'll just mod that Reddit is pretty much all I do.
Understandable. Well, anyway, thank you so much for coming by, guys. Everybody, please, if you guys could follow him, that'll be amazing. Don't forget to like and subscribe over here, and I'll see you guys in the next episode. Bye bye.
Bye.